It is 6 a.m. in the Mile High City on this debate day. Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, the big battle. You're probably only going to get one of these. Maybe, but I'm guessing only one of these. And you've tuned into the Jeff and Bill show on 710 KNUS. Salem Media providing wall-to-wall coverage of the big debate today. Larry Elder is going to be joining us in the 9 o'clock hour to talk about it because he is part of a pre-debate analysis that's going to be taking place prior to the actual debate. But all of this can be heard on 710 KNUS today, so you're not going to want to miss it. Dennis Prager, Sebastian Gorka, and more, including Tony Perkins, will be on there. So stay with us for live coverage of the debate which starts at 7 p.m., but you can join us. I think that it starts at 5 p.m., the pre-debate special. Yeah. So hang out with us all day for analysis and then pre-debate special live. Dennis Prager, Sebastian Gorka, Larry Elder, Tony Perkins, all that from 5 to 7. And then the actual debate you can listen to here live on 710 KNUS for election coverage you can trust. Stay with us through the entire day. And then if you're more of the social media minded type of person, you can join me on my personal accounts as I'm going to be hanging out with some friends talking about the debate live. Brandy Bradley will be joining me along with Richard Holtorf, Ryan Armagost, Ron Weinberg, Conservative Mama, Heidi Ganal, and attorney Chris Murray. Maybe some more will be joining us.
That'll be fun.
So that'll be on my X account and YouTube account. So you got lots of options to pay attention, but be informed because during the last debate, someone's presidential campaign ended.
Yeah, this will be interesting. This is going to be, what's going to happen, how things are going to be interpreted. This is going to be a really interesting one. And America is going to tune in because, as James Carville said, America likes to watch a car crash. So, yeah.
I mean, we talked about this last time, Billy, the last debate where I was like, no, it's kind of like pseudo entertainment. It's like the wrestling match, right?
It is.
No one's going to dive into the policy. No one's going to get into the weeds. Can anybody tell me a substantive policy debate that took place during the last presidential debate? No, they just go, oh, Joe Biden was a train wreck.
Yeah. And then I'm going to do this. You're going to do that. I'm going to do this. You're going to do that. That's basically what it's going to be. It's going to be interesting to see how that resonates and how much they dance around the policy and whether or not the attack's going to be personal. And, both of them have a line to walk because is it too aggressive, not aggressive enough? How much are they answering the question? Are they not answering the question? So we'll see. This is going to be an interesting one. I'm curious.
So if you remember the previous debates, if Donald Trump debates somebody of substance, it actually goes pretty well for him. The reason I think he lost to Joe Biden, particularly in 20, is because the jabs just went right by the guy. He just kind of didn't respond, wasn't fully present, and it just kind of skipped right off of him. Whereas I think when he debated Hillary Clinton, it was actual like the punches landed. Do you think Trump can land punches against Kamala Harris today?
I don't know. See, I'm not certain. My interpretation is I don't think he landed really good punches at Hillary. I'd have a different interpretation of that. He came off, to me, aggressive against Hillary and as a bully is what it looked like. I didn't think his presentation was strong at all against Hillary, but I didn't think Hillary's presentation in the debates was that good either. I think she was a little too wonky and a little too snarky at times. I don't know. I'm not certain. Here's the thing is, he's going to try to punch Kamala Harris. It's how is she going to respond? Yeah. And what is she going to say? The problem that we have, though, is that it's the same type of punches that he keeps trying to land. And so that's going to be, in my opinion, his weakness is if he comes with the same type of things, it's not going to go well for him because she will have probably planned for it. And how is that going to be received? And people forget, and this is why I think she wanted the mics on, but they're going to be off this time, is during the vice presidential debate, several times Pence tried to interrupt her, and she did a really good job of shutting him down. And so what's that going to happen? How does that look like? And so what is that dynamic going to look like? And we'll see. And if Kamala can goad Trump into being very, very personal, it could get really bad for him. Because if his thing is just, I'm just throwing, I'm just sitting here making fun of you and making fun of you and making fun of you, he's going to look bad. And so we'll have to see. I watched a clip over the weekend of Kamala and people are talking about it. One of her debates. I think it was either DA or AG in California. And she was on stage with two other candidates, one being her former boss that she's running against. And she did something during that debate that brought the House down. And it was something where she turned an attack on her against her opponents. And she did it in a very prosecutorial way. And if she gets that opportunity tonight, it's going to be tough. But I'm not sure if she's going to get that opportunity. I'm not sure if that's going to present itself based on this format. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see based on questions, based on answers.
How much does I live in a bubble president, vice president issue? Because if you go back to typically the first debate, that a president or vice president, think Barack Obama, Mitt Romney here in Denver, 2012, you get used to living in a kind of bizarre bubble where everybody agrees with you.
Yeah.
And then you actually have to go toe to toe. That I think that struck Joe Biden in his first debate. He just wasn't used to that. Barack Obama in his first debate against Mitt Romney. And essentially, you're dealing with Kamala Harris's first debate, whereas Donald Trump's already been through this.
I disagree, because Kamala's been through a number of debates. She did the vice president.
Long time ago. But you get into a bubble. When was the last time she was in a debate as a vice president?
The last election cycle. So
it's 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, but Donald Trump's done one debate in the last 3 or 4 years. That's the thing, is the idea that because Trump did one against Joe Biden, now it's better off. And that's I'm not sure I disagree with that idea. If Donald Trump had done 3 or 4 debates during the primaries and then had done one against Donald, then I think you're like, okay, he's warmed up, he's ready for this. The other part is I think Donald Trump also surrounds himself with a lot of yes people and a lot of people that say you're absolutely right. And so I think both of them have that bubble issue as far as what's going to happen. And we'll have to see. I think the thing for me that is going to be most interesting are going to be the questions about the flip-flops on issues and how is that going to be handled, because both candidates have done it. And who is going to have the better response to that, I think, is going to be very important. I'm just guessing right now inside the debate. I think there is some time for both candidates to make hay and to get that soundbite in that type of a scenario based on the flip-flops, because neither one of them can say they've held these positions for a long period of time and have believed these things that they're saying right now for a long period of time. So that's going to be interesting to see how it comes out.
You and I have both done debates. I often think it comes down to who's the hungriest, because if you're really hungry for it, you really prepare for it. Like if you're ready to come in and really seize it, that gives you often a more strategic advantage in the debate, because you tend to be quicker, sharper, on top of the facts.
Yeah. So, if you know your stuff, if you know your case, if you know what you're saying, then you're better off. Yeah. And that's why I think it's going to be interesting based on the two styles of debate prep, because Trump has done almost nothing and Kamala has done a decent amount from what I've seen, but I don't know what her prep involves.
I see him as a guy who engages with the media, engages with people, is constantly on that kind of leaning forward, pressing debate posture. So I don't know if hasn't done the prep.
Well, I mean, the thing is, okay, so explain to me what you're saying about when he's getting questions from the reporters. That's what you're counting as his debate prep, because, standing in front of an audience and talking to them and doing those rallies, or, doing the stuff that he did at Mar-a-Lago or the other club, that's not really good debate prep in any way, shape, or form. So just taking the questions. So you're talking about that?
I mean, be more accessible to media, I think, puts him in a better position than one interview.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I can see that. But the debate is a little bit of a different format as far as, how you answer questions. And that could be an advantage for him that I hadn't considered, the idea that he's out there answering the questions somewhat regularly with the press. But we'll see how it goes.
I did a debate with Rob Corey.
Yeah.
Now, Rob Corey was this kind of famous lawyer at one point in Colorado. He's now been disbarred.
Yeah.
He was the guy that wrote Amendment 64.
Yeah.
So what legalized pot. And when I was running Centennial Institute, we were laser focused on taking on that issue. And so he challenged me to a debate, and we decided to do it. And Sean Boyd from CBS 4 moderated the debate. And then people were sending me emails. Do you realize he's Stanford educated lawyer?
Yeah.
And what I found, I ended up smoking him in the debate easily because I was more hungry.
Yeah.
I studied, I prepared, I did debate prep. I had Frank McNulty, who was our lobbyist at the time, former Speaker of the House, come in and serve as Rob Corey, and he and I went back and forth. We prepared.
McNulty and I were on the same high school debate team.
Were you?
Yeah. Yes. Same team. Yep.
That is hilarious.
Oh yeah, I know.
I love that guy.
I do too.
So Rob Corey just kind of relied on being Stanford educated and just kind of showed up.
Yeah.
And I wrote the bill on pot, but man, when I went after him on, babies being born with THC in their systems and all that. So I think a lot of it will come down to who's better prepared, who really wants it, who's going to fight harder for it.
Yeah. Now here's the thing though. What I would say is that the prep that you took into that debate with Corey, I would say that Kamala's doing more of that than Trump is doing. Trump seems to be wandering in and saying, I've answered these questions, and I hadn't thought about that. The idea of taking the often questions is somewhat of that's a way to loosen up and to be used to it. But I'm not certain that it's necessarily debate prep. Yeah. And if he isn't ready, if he's just going to kind of wing it and he isn't ready to have some canned responses, but he could have some canned responses. Yeah. We'll have to see. And there's also that idea of prepping too much. And I do think to a certain extent, Biden suffered from that partially because of the mental faculties.
Well, you get into the facts and stats so much that nobody can.
And what you saw with him, though, is you saw him, in my opinion, during the last debate, you saw him, he had some canned answers and he would get into it and then he'd kind of forget where he is. And then he'd jump to the end of one of the canned answers he had. And so there was these non sequiturs that would go on and you're like, wait, why are we talking about this now? And you could see that based on what he was saying, he was repeating the lines that he had practiced, but they weren't fitting with what the actual conversation was. So I'm curious because that's over prep. And so I'm curious. So if Kamala did over prep, then she's going to try to almost shotgun it where it's just way too much information and nothing's going to connect. But if she can tell a story, if she can lean on her prosecutorial experience, it could be an effective means of communication, but we'll have to see. And we'll have to see.
What does Kamala Harris have to achieve tonight? Give us a call, 303-696-1971. What does Donald Trump need to do to be victorious? Want to hear from you? Don't text us because the machine's
broken still. I know. I don't know why.
We can't respond to the text messages. Can't even access it.
Nope, can't.
So call us 303-696-1971. Let's check in first with the news and commentary with Blake Olson. Blake, did you see the Tyreek Hill video?
Yeah, I did see it. But here's what I'm curious about. I still haven't seen the speeding or the reckless driving video. Shouldn't some of the camera? I haven't seen that. Have you guys? I don't know if it's out there, but I want to see the reckless driving video and the speeding video. What led up to this? Everyone online, they keep on saying, "Well, do you think this was fair? Was it good?" Well, I have no idea what happened leading up to that. Yeah, they asked him to get out of the car. He should have got out of the car. Once again, it's the resisting, arrest and not following the direction of the officers again. But
they seem to go real quick from 0 to 60 in about 30 seconds with him.
Yeah, they did. They didn't mess around. But what's funny in the reporting, I don't hear if it would have been a quote unquote white officer, it would have been blown way out of proportion. But it sounded like these guys, for the most part, may have been Hispanic, Latinos, and I haven't seen that. 2 Latino police officers pull over Hill. So I don't know. I haven't seen the video leading up to it. I saw the pullover, but I wanted to ask you guys. I think Trump should go out there, walk over to Kamala Khan and shake her hand and look more presidential than her prior to the debate. I don't know what you guys think about that, but that was something I felt like he should have done with Biden before the last debate. We'll see what happens.
Do they not shake hands?
No,
they didn't.
Not at the beginning. See, I think he should come out, whatever. He should go over to her, shake her hand, and look more presidential than her. because they wanted her to stand on a box because she's so much shorter. and my response,
you want that image, right?
Yeah, my response would have been, yeah, you can have a box as long as we can have a box. So so it wouldn't matter. But I hope he doesn't get in a fist fight with her, and he just lets her talk, and he tries to sound as presidential as possible. So.
I think he's got to pin her down as the radical progressive communist that she is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He cannot let her escape this gal pal, Oprah-fine, Obama-fine effort that's taking place. She's incredibly progressive. We're going to get into this a little bit later in the show. Yeah. This ACLU questionnaire she filled out in the 2020 presidential.
To talk about that one. Yep.
That is just, she is about as wildly progressive as you can get on just about every issue. Absolutely. And that has to be exposed to the American people. If that's all he does tonight, he wins.
No, I agree. All right, I'll get out of here as quickly as possible so you guys can get on with the show. But it's 61 and clear in Denver, expecting a high of 87 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story.
Look, Simba, everything the light touches is our kingdom.
Wow.
A king's time as ruler rises and falls like the sun. One day, Simba, the sun will set on my time here and will rise.
And just in case you didn't hear it, you went to bed early like I did. The greatest voice ever, James Earl Jones, passed away at the age of 93. Yes, he was Darth Vader in the voice of CNN and in Field of Dreams, along with 100 other great things. But for me, his voice, Mufasa in The Lion King, was the greatest. From the greatest voice to the worst, Kamala Khan sounds the alarm, says Americans should know former President Trump will lie in tonight's first and probably last presidential debate. Her word salad with Ricky Smiley goes on with Ricky Smiley. Avoids all the journalists. All of a sudden, she sounds stoic and serious.
He plays from this really old and tired playbook, right? Where there's no floor for him in terms of how low he will go. And we should be prepared for that. We should be prepared for the fact that he is not burdened by telling the truth. And we should be prepared for the fact that he is probably going to speak a lot of untruth. And ultimately, what I intend to point out is what so many people know, and certainly as I'm traveling the country in this campaign. He tends to fight for himself, not for the American people.
Yeah, he took a bullet for the United States of America to his ear.
And I think that's going to come out during the course of the debate. But I expect that he's going to, I think he's going to lie.
Yeah, and you aren't and haven't already. Imprisoned illegal immigrants would get free gender transition surgeries under a Kamala Khan presidency, according to a new report by CNN, of all places. According to a newly discovered ACLU survey, Harris wanted to cut ICE funding but provide gender transition surgeries to illegals who were locked in prison. In the questionnaire filled out by Harris as a candidate in 2020, Harris said as president, she would fund illegals wanting gender transition surgeries. Andrew Kaczynski on CNN.
Yeah, and this was a questionnaire that she filled out for the ACLU. And this questionnaire is really an interesting snapshot in time of that 2019 Democratic primary. Kamala Harris was trying to get to the left of Bernie Sanders. She was trying to get to the left of Elizabeth Warren. And you really see that in a lot of these answers. And I want to walk our viewers through a little bit of what she said. Let's just take immigration and look at what she said here. She said on immigration, she made this open-ended pledge to end immigrant detention. She said she supported taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries for detained migrants. She also said she
taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries for detained migrants. She actually said she supported that.
And that's on CNN, which is pretty amazing. The city of Aurora has threatened to shut down. Are you there, Jeff?
Well, yeah, it's funny. You can hear me just click it on.
No, I love it. I love it.
She also supports.
I'm reading your mind, actually.
Yeah. Well, she also supported the decriminalization of all drug possession.
Yes. Yes. Why not?
I mean, it's like we tried that in Portland, which is like as crazy progressive as you could possibly get. And they went, hold on, wait a minute. Portland. We tried that. That was a disaster.
Yep.
Gosh, my goodness. She is about as crazy wacko lib as you can get.
No.
Let's make her the president of the United States.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Hey, what a great idea. Let's see. The Edge at Lowry and Whispering Pines are the complexes which are both suffering from severe maintenance issues and a lack of services like trash removal. Aurora police say while they aren't being controlled by the Venezuelan gang TGA, gang-related problems are apparent at each complex. Both properties are owned by CBZ Management, the same company that owned the now-closed Fitzsimmons Apartments on Nome Street. The man who caused a shelter-in-place alert at Rocky Mountain National Park Sunday evening is in custody. The National Park Service says the 23-year-old Wade Thifault led rangers on a high-speed chase down Trail Ridge Road, driving so recklessly that they had to end the pursuit. Estes Park police tried to stop him with spike strips near the park's Beaver Meadows entrance, but he crashed into another car. 3 people in the other car were injured, 1 critically. Thifault ran away from the crash scene and was later arrested. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills. Locally owned and operated since 1954. Online at lairfireplacepatio.com. 57 in Arvada, 59 in Highlands Ranch, and 61 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue on Tuesday morning.
Nice.
How low can you go?
How low can you go?
Yeah, Kamala Khan. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Continued warm, partly cloudy with temperatures 80s and 90s today, mid to upper 80s tomorrow, and near 90 on Thursday. By Friday and into the weekend, a touch cooler, comfortable. Friday through Sunday's highs will be 80s. Only a few isolated thunderstorms will be around today, and a better chance tomorrow than Thursday through Sunday, dry. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed payments, giving you a peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Is this Trump's walkout music? I would like to have that merging of wrestling and debate more. Come on, that's where we are in this culture. Make it entertaining. Yeah. Get the kids watching. All right, let's go to the phone lines. Tom Littleton, what do you expect to see tonight in the debate? What does Kamala Harris need to do? What does Trump need to do?
Well, I think for Trump, he needs to be careful because when he's asked a question, and he's not a guy who's got a lot of facts at his fingertips, typically, he may start maybe he starts in answering the question, but then God knows where he's going to go in his answer from there. And that meandering around, she'll call him out. She'll call him out on that, and that will be embarrassing to him, you know, if she does that. On her side, I think Billy hit it on the head. Don't get bogged down in a ton of numbers and programs, and she's been holed up in a hotel for 5 days now with her team prepping, and you know, she risks being over prepped. If she goes in, tells the story, calls Trump out on simply lying. If let's just say tariffs. Let's say that's the topic, and she takes that moment to explain how tariffs work and how his policy is flat wrong. If she does that 1 or 2 times early in the debate, she'll have him on the run. Because if every time he opens his mouth and she corrects him and says to the American public, these are complicated issues, but if he's going to lie to you, we are never going to be able to solve this problem. So I'm going to lay out how tariffs work and why they can be effective, but how they can be damaging. And she takes that kind of educator-in-chief, explainer-in-chief role. She'll bury him.
Tony, have you ever seen Kamala Harris explain something well?
I haven't seen her debate enough to know. I've read about her debates and the way she's handled people in the past. So I can't say that she can do it. I'm not saying she can do it. I haven't seen her. She is the
queen of the word salad, man. Well, she just it is, you know.
And the way you guys have some experience debating. The idea is only get 1 or 2 ideas in your head and explain those 1 or 2 ideas.
Yeah.
Don't try to cover 8 bases in an answer.
Tony,
and if she does that, she'll be effective.
Watched the Reagan movie over the weekend. Great film, by the way. If you haven't seen it, it's been doing pretty well. It's worth going and see. But you know, you go back to all the debates over history, and it oftentimes comes down to general feelings about the candidates, maybe 1 or 2 lines that come across that really land well. I think last time, from my perspective as a conservative, Tony, was when Donald Trump said, I don't even think Joe Biden understands what he said. You know, those kind of funny little lines. Or Reagan, I won't use my opponent's youth and inexperience as a political point. You know, you get these
one
kind
of the best lines ever.
So how do you... You're talking, you know, policy and responding to policy. Is that more about generating a feeling about Kamala Harris?
Yes. It is just showing competence and her understanding of the issue, whereas his explanation is typically wrong. I mean, he'll say things about there's been 10 million people that crossed the border. And she can say the border is a very challenging problem, and it's going to be a bigger problem as global warming continues, and there's going to be more people moving around the globe, and we have to solve that. But let's start with the facts. 10 million people did not come across the border. X million came across the border. The others were stopped and turned back. Now, if she does that kind of thing, and it's going to tell the audience, oh, she really knows her stuff, and she's competent, and she's calling him out for being factually incorrect, and that will make him very gun shy. And you know the deal. He does not like to be embarrassed.
Tony, I appreciate the call. Thanks so much. Yeah, I feel like that's betting a lot on Kamala Harris that she's going to be able to explain things well. The question I had for Tony: when have you seen in her career Kamala Harris explain policies well?
Well, the thing that I would look at is that she was a prosecutor, and prosecutors have to be able to outline a case in front of a jury. And normally that is something that you pre-prep. You can have notes and things beforehand, and you have to
rarely see. I think what most prosecutors do is negotiate deals.
Well, no, but I'm saying in the courtroom. I mean, talk about friend of the show George Brockler. He lays out
in the courtroom a lot. Was she?
Yeah, I mean, again, probably more than Trump has as far as that area.
But that's a different career.
Yeah, I know, but and that's what I'm saying is that when you're standing there and you have to to lay out, and especially when she was a junior prosecutor, yes, she would have to stand there in front of juries, in front of judges, and lay out a case. And if she can lean on that experience. Yeah, then she probably can do solid. And I understand the critique about the word salad, but you understand who she's debating. The king of the word salad. So it's like the king and the queen. So the idea that she's going to wander all over it.
You advance in politics these days.
Yeah, I mean, you saw Trump's recent childcare response.
Yeah,
and that was nonsensical. That bordered on struggling to find a complete sentence anywhere in a paragraph. That was awful. But if he responds that way to some of the answers, it's going to go badly for him. And she responds that way to some of the answers, it's going to go badly for her. Yeah.
All right, we're going to get to the phone calls. What do Kamala Harris and Donald Trump need to do to be successful, respectively, tonight? Look, I want to talk to you about my friend Dan Caplis and Dan Caplis Law. Speaking of a guy I wouldn't go up against in a courtroom because I'd lose. Dan Caplis is a serious guy who delivers serious results for his clients. This is important because, first of all, you want to choose a guy that represents your values, right? You see those lawyers with their billboards on the sides of a bus. They kind of feel a little sleazy. You want to trust them really to get you across the finish line on an important case that affects your future. You want a guy that shares your values. Dan Caplis is the son of a police officer. He's a former seminarian. He's pro-life, pro-family, pro-America. He's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. But more importantly, he's a titan in the courtroom. He wins. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. He is so trusted as an attorney that Dan Caplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche, a serious lawyer with a serious firm for serious cases. But he's not just reserved for the rich and wealthy. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need his help, why don't you just put his phone number in your phone right now so you're not scrambling? If you ever get hurt in a car accident, give him a call. 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS Law.com. We'll continue with your calls and texts. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. It is the big night, fight night between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump as they engage in what is likely to be the only debate to take place. What a wild cycle. I remember when like Mitt Romney and Barack Obama did like 8 debates or something. Like we ran out of any energy for debate parties anymore. People were like, ugh, I've already seen this show enough. The first one was fun. That was at DU. But then after a while, but only one? Only one? That's kind of crazy. What do you expect to hear tonight? What does Donald Trump need to do in order to be successful? What does Kamala Harris need to do in order to be successful? Our text message machine's not working.
Yeah,
so if you want to be a part of the conversation, you got to give us a call. 303-696-1971. Let's go to Joan Lakewood. Good morning. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710 KNUS.
Good morning, guys. First, I want to say, Jeff, I'm so excited you went to see Reagan. And yesterday, I was at a luncheon, and I talked about going to see Reagan. And then I talked about going to see Am I a Racist? And the whole room was really, really excited about I'm a Racist. And it kind of makes my point about what Trump has to do. Reagan had this smile, and he had this sense of humor, and he had this ability to connect with the people. And this is what Trump has. Trump has the ability to listen actively. And if you went back to what he was doing with Biden, he sat there and he listened. And you could tell what he was thinking when he was listening. And at one point, he cocked his head and then he said something. And Trump is very good at conveying, gosh, I'm confused. Are you confused? And I'm pretty sure with Kamala, he'll be able to say, I'm confused. Are you confused?
Yeah, and you know, the debate rules, I think, kind of favor that side of Trump coming out, as you saw with the Biden campaign, when he can't interrupt or, you know, speak over that type of thing. He seems more presidential. So,
yeah,
Joe,
forces him
we'll
to
have to see it.
Yeah.
We'll have to watch it. Appreciate the call. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Just got full phone lines here. We're going to get through these. Marty, Denver, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710. KNUS. Good morning, Marty.
Morning.
Good morning, guys. Now, holy cow, Billy. I mean, there is still time for you to kind of come to your better senses and get off of this Kamala thing. Tonight, basically, she has to have a performance that she's never had before. And Donald Trump would have to go completely out of his mind. It's not a fair fight, but it is the main event of the evening. But I think it's this simple, Billy. Our sanctuary cities a Republican thing or a Democrat thing?
Democrat, but why does that matter based on this conversation? I'm curious where you're going, but we'll play along.
Well, she's supported the invasion of America. So my follow-up question.
Wait, hang on a sec. Wait, stop. Wait, hold on. Oh, wait, no, Marty. That's you all of a sudden had this statement that is very loaded. You said you asked me a question about sanctuary cities, and then you go to supporting an invasion. Those are not analogous. You can have a sanctuary city and not support border policies that are as open as they are right now. Those two things can be true. No, you're drawing a conclusion that, again, and you're drawing a conclusion about me that's also not true, but continue. Fine. Okay, here we go. So no problem. So we know Democrats support migrants, or they're more supportive of migrants. Let me say it like that to be casual. So then I want to talk about then the known 15 to 20 million people that have come in the Biden administration. Is that fair or is that disputed? Let's say no, that's disputed.
No less than 10.
That number,
than 10, though.
No, it's less than 10 is what I would dispute it to less than 10. And here's the thing. And here's the thing, Marty, is that you're acting as if time started in 2016. You forget what happened during the Obama administration. He deported far more illegals than Trump ever did. He was nicknamed the deporter-in-chief at the time, but we forget that because in Trump world, time starts at 2016. Nothing happened beforehand, before the Great One arrived. But that's where you're operating out of. But that's okay.
What I'm isolating is the period of January 2021 to present day. Are you disputing that no less than 10, regardless of what Trump did, or regardless of Obama, were there about 10 to 15 million brand new, lovely, wonderful immigrants that came to us in that period? Yes or no?
Oh, as a whole, possibly. I'm not sure about the entire number, but again, I'm not sure where you're going with this. But okay, and again, that would be legal. Those would be legal. Those would be illegal. Those would be asylum seekers. Yeah, if you want to expand the umbrella and say all of them, okay, I could probably go with that. But again, I'm not.
I'll pretend that a majority of these are legal arrivals.
Wait, hang on a sec. Hold on. Hold on. What do you mean by pretend that they're legal arrivals? Because once people claim asylum, they then become legal citizens temporarily.
Okay. So, then I believe the 10 million brand new friends that claimed asylum here, I believe that. And they're now wonderful people. Okay, I'm playing along. I'm right with you, okay? This is the question of the night. Billy, what was more damaging? What's going to have greater impact to our country? These 10 to 20 brand new baby friends that are going to help society, or J6? Which one caused more harm to the country? Binary choice.
January 6th. That's easy.
Oh, you're kidding.
No.
So the 20 million people, the Venezuelan gang, the Haitian zombies, the takeover, the bankrupt cities, that's going to last in perpetuity. That's not a bigger problem than January 6th. Are you nuts?
I'm sorry. The January 6th was about denying the results of an election. That seems pretty big. I'm not saying that neither one is a big deal, but if you're talking to me about which one is a larger crisis, the denial of a sitting president, of the election, of the results of an election and trying to overturn it seems like a bigger deal that someone is trying to stay in office when they weren't qualified to stay in office. Now, there are going to be problems because of these. That's not outrageous at all, Marty. It may be your opinion, but it's not outrageous. I find it very interesting that you think it's perfectly acceptable that people showed up at the Capitol and based on violence decided that we could overturn an election. That's really interesting that your malleability on the Constitution is so flawed that you're okay with that. You're like, no, if we just show up with enough people, we can change the Constitution if we want, and we can also decide who's going to be the president based on violence. That's great.
Interesting how state secretaries of state all over this country changed their state constitutions to get the election in 2020.
No, that's not. Secretaries of state did not. Marty, that is not true because it had to go through the legislature. Legislature made the rules, and many of them were Republican legislatures. The thing people complain about is Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania was a Republican legislature that changed the rules. Also, the rules were changed inside of states that Trump won. Oddly enough, no one complains about that. They only complain about the ones that he lost because, again, your argument is transitory. It's only built on a conclusion that you already have, and you're working backwards in order to fill the boat. That's all it is, man. That's all it is. I appreciate the phone call, but maybe we'll get into this again tomorrow. I'd love to see just wipe out the one, call of the week rule tomorrow. Just get everybody's reaction on the debates, just for fun. I'd love to hear from everyone.
Marty going back and forth will be fun tomorrow as well. Marty, appreciate the call.
Appreciate it.
Coming up, you choose the news. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
All right, Billy, give the people what they want.
All right, it is that time of the morning where we make questionable decisions. It's what we call You Choose the News. Yes, I've scoured the interwebs for mere moments this morning to find really dumb stories about us humans to play this fake radio news game show. Yes, I've added dumb, stupid, ridiculous headlines to these silly stories so we can have some fun this morning because nobody in charge is actually paying attention at this time of the morning. So we would really appreciate it if you do not share our little secrets. All right. Jeff Hunt, Blake Olson in the newsroom. Here are your choices, gentlemen. Headline number 1. Number 1 with a laser. Headline number 2. Detour on the way to Flavortown. Headline number 3. Best friend or replacement theory. And headline number 4. Better check the recipe.
I'm going to take the detour to Flavortown.
Yes, take the detour to Flavortown. Recently, Food Network star Guy Fieri was sharing an embarrassing incident that took place back in 2020 when he was hanging out at Sylvester Stallone's house. He was on the In Depth with Graham Bensinger podcast earlier, and he was talking about back in 2020, he was hanging out at Sly's house. He was helping out with some of the food that was being prepared, and that's when one of the staff members came over and told him he better take off his jacket and get behind the bar right away or the boss is going to be mad. Yes, he was mistaken for a bartender at the event by one of the staff, and he had to explain it. And the staff member afterwards was like, "Oh, I'm very sorry, sir. I didn't mean to. I'm very sorry." He said, "But I was actually kind of working in the kitchen, so I understand why she might have seen me running around, and it could have been an easy case of mistaken identity." But again, someone that works for a catering company came up and told Guy Fieri to get behind the bar and stop wasting time. I love the fact that he was wearing a jean jacket at the time. He said, "Yeah, I was kind of dressed like the staff." He goes, "But I was wearing a jean jacket, and she got mad at me. Take that jacket off and get behind the bar right now."
Make some good
she
food.
supposed
Make
to
some
know
good
every
drinks.
TV show out
Yeah,
there?
exactly.
Yeah,
Good
that's
TV
right.
show then. All righty, Blake Olson, your choice, sir. Number 1 with a laser. Best friend or replacement theory, or check the recipe.
Let's go with the replacement theory. That seems to be a great theme lately.
Yeah, best friend or replacement theory. Man's best friend might end up actually replacing him. That's if we keep it up going this way. Countries across the globe are facing population declines. Health journal The Lancet predicts that 97% of first world countries are going to have fertility rates too low to sustain their size very soon, and they're especially worried about South Korea. The fertility rate has dwindled to the absolute lowest in the world of the developed nations, and while babies might be sparse, dogs are plentiful inside of South Korea. In fact, in 2023, sales of strollers for doggos outpaced sales for strollers for babies for the very first time. Yes. Yes.
my
they are buying more dog
I've
strollers
always
than they are for
found this
babies.
fascinating because South Korea is a pretty Christian
Yeah.
nation.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Get
they're
into
buying
the
more
baby
dog.
making.
They're buying more
Yeah.
dog strollers. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. So
Yeah, that's very
I know. I still
shocking.
the dog strollers, can't they walk? I just seriously
Yeah,
have feet. I take
that's
them
a
for a
little
walk.
weird.
I mean, there are people in my neighborhood that stroller around
All
their
right,
dogs.
so
I'm like, "You're
guys,
wasting the
I know
sun here."
we're running out of time on this, but last
Yes.
night,
Yes.
1 a.m,
Yeah.
coyotes,
Oh.
dogs going crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
And then
Really?
this is classic Elbert County, one
Yeah.
of my neighbors popping off at
Yep.
1 a.m. with a rifle towards coyotes.
Going at the coyotes. Nice.
Nice.
Alrighty. Final choice, sir. Number 1 with a laser, or check the recipe.
Check the recipe.
Better check the recipe. We are going to Chesterfield, Virginia for this one. Recently, Chesterfield Fire Department received an emergency call about a fire in a kitchen. They ran inside. They opened the oven. They found the problem. It was the gun that was being stored inside. Yes, in order to store and hide the gun, the homeowner had placed their loaded firearm inside of the oven and then forgot about it. When they turned the oven on to preheat it, well, the firearm, along with the bullets on the inside, warmed up and they fired off 5 rounds. No one was hurt, but it did ricochet around the oven and even smash the glass window. So, yeah. That's it. That's it. If you choose the news, that's all the dumb stories and choices we made this morning. Back to you, sir.
When we return, you're never going to believe this ACLU questionnaire. They've dug up CNN reporting Kamala Harris is far more progressive than you may even imagine. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
7 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You won the lottery. You woke up in the greatest country in history, and tonight is the big night. Donald Trump, Kamala Harris in the ring together. Who's going to come out victorious? Last time this happened, somebody's presidential campaign ended.
I know.
First time ever I've ever seen anything like that happen.
Yeah, and you were the first one that I heard on any major media outlet saying, I think this is over. I mean, people were questioning it the night of, but that next morning, you're the first person I heard that said, I think Joe Biden's campaign is over. And I was skeptical, and I was wrong. I thought, no, I was going to push through to the end. And you're right.
They tried.
Right,
he tried to push through.
Oh, yeah, he did. But you were absolutely right.
Until George Clooney took him out back. So we're talking about what Donald Trump needs to do, what Kamala Harris needs to do. What do they need to do to be victorious? Do you like the more stately Donald Trump, not talking over people like he performed in the last Joe Biden debate? I'd say he was more stately in that one. Or do you want to go back to the Hillary Clinton? Give it to her, Donald Trump. I'm going to put you be in jail if I was president type of quips. What do you want to see tonight? Give us a call. Text message machine not really working today, so you're going to have to call us at 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Got a great show for you today. Dustin Zvonek, at-large Aurora City Council member and currently serving as Mayor Pro Tem, is going to join us. They got a new plan to deal with homelessness in the city of Aurora, and it is, even according to him, radically different than what Denver's doing. So who's got better ideas? We're going to cover that in the 8 o'clock hour. And then the great one, Larry Elder, is going to join us. Very excited to have Larry on in the 9 o'clock hour.
Yeah, that'll be cool. He's hosting Debate's prep show tonight at 5 o'clock. Yeah, takes over the airways 5 o'clock tonight. Going to be running that up to 7 o'clock with people like Dennis Prager, Sebastian Gorka hanging out with him. So they'll walk you right up to the debate. And then we'll carry the debate live tonight as well.
This is the ABC News presidential debate simulcast that will be taking place right here on 710 KNUS. So all the best coverage that you can trust on 710 KNUS all day today. Let's check in first with news and commentary. Blake Olson.
Hey, thank you guys. The sage of South Central, man. I love Larry.
Yeah, great.
Hey, when you get him on, please ask him about Tyreek Hill, if he has an opinion on that, and how, resisting or not following directions.
Yeah, right.
Police. If you get
you just make your life so much easier. What you've got to teach young people is that if you're frustrated and angry at the way the police are treating you, okay, you fight that fight in a court at a later date.
Yes.
You don't fight it on the street.
No, be the kindest and most respectful person you can be.
Well, what I've taught our kids is if you get pulled over, you turn on the dome light, right? Because you have to imagine what it's like to be the police officer approaching a car. They have no idea who you are. They have no idea if you're a good guy, bad guy, you've got guns. They don't know.
Right.
So you turn on the dome light, okay? You roll down both windows on the driver's side so they can see in. You put your hands to the front left so that they can see your hands as you walk up, and you be respectful, even if the police look. We've all dealt with police officers that aren't the nicest, but you be as respectful as you can. If they're being rude, if you feel like your civil rights are being violated, you have every right to contest that at a later point. Not on the side of the street at that point. You want to raise a complaint later. And don't do that. Oh my God. Don't do the, I need to talk to your supervisor. Have you seen those? That never works out for them. I need to talk to your supervisor.
Right. I mean, I will give Hill credit. He didn't say, do you know who I am? You'll hear it. I'll have it coming up.
You did hear that one, though, where he's like, my knee, surgery. Could you imagine like not being able to play because of one of those stupid encounters?
Oh, no doubt. It could have escalated even further. It was interesting. Calais Campbell was right there, his teammate, and Calais played at Denver South.
Really?
So yeah, so Denver South guy right there. He was trying to help out, whatever. But Drew, we talked about Drew Rosenhaus,
and he was calling him.
He was on the phone. Drew. Oh man, it's out of control. All right, 60 and sunny in Denver. Expecting a high of 87 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
He plays from this really old and tired playbook, right? Where there's no floor for him in terms of how low he will go. And we should be prepared for that. We should be prepared for the fact that he is not burdened by telling the truth. And we should be prepared for the fact that he is probably going to speak a lot of untruth.
What? Kamala Khan, the new queen of lies, warning all Americans who listen to Ricky Smiley. Former President Trump will lie in tonight's first and probably last presidential debate. Her word salad with Smiley is beautiful. The cackler so serious about talking about subjects like truth. And, well, here you go.
And ultimately, what I intend to point out is what so many people know, certainly as I'm traveling the country in this campaign.
Oh, okay.
He tends to fight for himself, not for the American people.
All right.
And I think that's going to come out during the course of the debate. But I expect that he's going to, I think he's going to lie. And, he has a playbook that he has used in the past.
I'm not.
Be it, his attacks on President Obama or Hillary Clinton. So we should expect that some of that might come out.
Imprisoned illegal immigrants would get free gender transition surgeries under a Kamala Khan presidency, according to a new report by CNN. According to a newly discovered ACLU survey, Harris wanted to cut ICE funding but provide gender transition surgeries to illegals who were locked in prison. So if a dude wants to be a lady, ain't no problem if you're illegal and you're in prison. In the questionnaire filled out by Harris as a candidate for the 2020 race, she said that she would fund illegals wanting the gender transition surgeries.
Blake, this is where I think Donald Trump's message of America First lands so well. Yes. And we're going to talk about this all in this next hour because, public funding. This is money that comes from the taxpayers, hard-earned, is going to go towards illegal immigrants getting sex change operations.
Right, who are in prison. It's come on. I think, and honestly, if I'm not mistaken, it happened in Colorado a few months ago. If you identify as a woman, so you can still keep the bat and balls and still go into the female prison, which is
women gotta stand up at that point. Seriously, the threat to safety.
Oh, it's
all disgusting. To just accommodate a social, campaign, a social progressive campaign. It's just crazy.
No doubt. Here's Ted Cruz about all this, and then talking about ICE with Kamala.
As a senator, when cross-examining the head of ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, compared ICE to the Ku Klux Klan. That's what Kamala Harris did. Said, people are saying you're like the Klan. And understandably, the head of ICE was offended and said, I don't know what you're talking about. We're law enforcement agents who are protecting American citizens. She's like, well, but people are saying you're just like the Klan. That's who she is. And Bernie's right that there's a reason that the left is not mad at Kamala for pretending to run away from all of her left-wing positions.
Yes.
Because they know she's pretending. They know it's all about, we just got to get to election day. And if, God forbid, she gets to the White House, she's going to go back to what she's done her entire life, which is hard left.
They don't care what she says. They just want to win, bottom line. Just in case you didn't hear this, the greatest voice ever, James Earl Jones, passed away at the age of 93. Yes, he was Darth Vader and the voice of CNN and in the Field of Dreams. But for me, Mufasa in The Lion King was the greatest.
Look, Simba, everything the light touches is our kingdom. Wow. A king's time as ruler rises and falls like the sun. One day, Simba, The sun will set on my time here and will rise.
Man, what pipes.
He was so great. A former Army officer, right?
Yes.
A veteran, converted Catholic, passionate about his faith, said the greatest thing he ever did was provide the voiceover for a reading of the version of the Bible.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah,
that guy lived life well.
Yeah, he did.
And is enjoying eternity with his Savior. Man,
amen.
What a great guy.
Amen. No doubt. You're going to miss him. Well, I told you about the 20,000 Haitians who've invaded Springfield, Ohio yesterday. Talked about that. They're eating ducks in parks, cats roaming the streets. Now, and driving. A lot of them, of course, don't know how to drive, never been trained. Huge problem in the town of 60,000. And then this man in another small town in Ohio.
So my daughter enrolls my 4-year-old grandson into preschool last week, and they have a little meet and greet. I think it was Thursday. I just heard about this yesterday. And if you watch my channel, you know I live in small town Ohio. So she goes, takes him down to the meet and greet. They tell her that she has to hire a translator with her own money in order to send him to preschool because he is the only student that doesn't speak Spanish.
Great. There you go. All right. The Miami Dolphins are calling on the Miami-Dade Police Department to take swift and strong action against officers involved in detaining wide receiver Tyreek Hill. Here it is.
Why don't you have your seatbelt on? Don't knock on my window. Why don't you have your seatbelt on? Knock on my window like that, no.
Okay, so he said, don't knock on my window like that, though. Okay, so they come out and they say, well, the police are saying you don't have your seatbelt on. He just said, okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. I just took it off, sir. I'll do whatever you need me to do. What does he say?
Like what?
Don't knock on my window like that.
Why you have it up?
Don't knock on my window like that.
Why you have it up? I have to knock to let you know I'm here. That way you can look.
So he has tinted windows. They're trying to get him to roll down the window. He rolls down the window, and then he rolls it back up.
Get my ticket, bro, so I can go. I'm going to be late, gang. Do what you
do. What you do.
Keep it down. Hey.
So he rolls up his tinted window. They tap on his window. They need to talk to him. They have no idea who he is. And they shouldn't.
Hey. Keep your window down. Keep your window down. I'm going to get you out of the car. As a matter of fact, get out of the car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
And then that's where it escalated. So you could see he didn't follow directions. All he would have had to do was say, yes, sir. What do you need me to do? Whatever you need me to do. I'm late. Shouldn't have been speeding. But no, he said, don't knock on my window like that, though. So that's where it all escalated, and we'll see where it goes from here. But I want to see the video of him racing down the highway. What led to all this? So I haven't seen that. If Billy knows more, he'll let me know. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills. Locally owned and operated since 1954. Online at lairfireplacepatio.com. 57 in Arvada, 59 Highlands Ranch, 60 degrees in Denver right now. Jeff and Bill continue on Tuesday morning. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Continued warm, partly cloudy with temperatures 80s and 90s today, mid to upper 80s tomorrow, and near 90 on Thursday. By Friday and into the weekend, a touch cooler, comfortable. Friday through Sunday's highs will be 80s. Only a few isolated thunderstorms will be around today, and a better chance tomorrow than Thursday through Sunday, dry. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed payments, giving you a peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, big night tonight as there is a battle for the future of this country, a big debate. News Talk 710 KNUS is proud to present coverage of the ABC News presidential debate simulcast. Join Larry Elder at 5 p.m. for a pre-debate special with Dennis Prager, Sebastian Gorka, and more. Then stay with us for live coverage of the debate on Tuesday night starting at 7 p.m. for election coverage you can trust. Stay with 710 KNUS. All right, so Blake mentioned it. This is a big deal because CNN, out of all places, is talking about and discovered this. Harris told ACLU in 2019 she supports cuts to ICE funding and providing gender transition surgery to detained migrants. In addition to this, Harris also indicated she supported the decriminalization of all drug possession for personal use. Now, when asked by Dana Bash during the last CNN conversation, she indicated that, yeah, I changed, but really my priorities remain the same. My commitment to these issues kind of remains the same. So she's signaling to the left that she's as progressive as she's always been, but she's trying to appeal to moderates and independents. So do you trust that Kamala Harris is really moderating? Or do you think that she's just doing this in order to try to appeal to voters in the last 60 days of a campaign? What do you think, Billy?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think that everybody has to run towards the middle. And I do think that she's moderating her positions. And I'm curious to see how she deals with this inside the debate, because if she just comes out and again, I'm not sure that she's clever enough to do this, but if she comes out and says, you know, that's how I felt now, but given the experience, the time I spent in the vice president's office, and the other things that I've done, my positions have changed and evolved. And then if you turn and sit there, and does anything about, that's what adults do, given more information and with experience, our positions change. And she could even go as far as to say that I am not the queen or king or dictator of this country. And what I feel personally on this issue, I have to represent all Americans. And I am going to bring forward these policies that are acceptable for all Americans. And that's not something I'm going to do. And it's not something I would push for and everything else. She does something like that, and I think it's over. I'm not sure she's clever enough to do that, because the easiest way to tamp this down immediately is to say, yeah, I've changed my positions, but people grow and change and evolve their thinking all the time. And then she could even, if she wanted to, point back at Donald Trump and say, listen, he's on his fourth political party. He's changed his opinion on abortion in the past 6 months. So if we talk about what I'm doing in 2019, let's talk about his changes in the last. And then she could even, if she wanted to, even go far enough and say, dude's vice president once said he could be America's Hitler. And he's changed his position. So it seems like people changing their positions is okay in this race. And my positions have changed. If she does that, it goes away. But I'm not sure she's clever enough to do that.
I think this is indicative of actually who she is. I think this is core Kamala Harris, that she is that progressive. I don't think Donald Trump is as pro-life as he made himself out to be in 2016. I appreciated everything he did, right? He appointed the 3 Supreme Court justices. He marched at the March for Life, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
But he wasn't core pro-life. I don't look at Donald Trump and go, that guy makes that who he is as his core. So when he kind of moderates a little bit on it, I go, he's listening to people and advisors going, you got to win this. You got to, we're not going to pass a national abortion ban, put it back on the states, that type of thing. He goes, okay, I'm willing to do that. But Kamala Harris, when she's moderating right now, she's doing that in order to win. But I think the minute she gets into power, she's going to revert back to these types of things. What am I talking about? So there is an ACLU questionnaire. And I've never had problems. I like the fact that candidates do these questionnaires because it gives me a sense of who they are. Some of them that refuse to do that. They don't want to get boxed in. And it kind of reveals, I think, their core personalities. This is what CNN writes. As Kamala Harris pivots to the political center in her campaign for president, a 2019 questionnaire from a leading civil rights organization spotlights her past support for left-wing causes such as taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries for detained immigrants and federal prisoners. In an American Civil Liberties Union questionnaire, then Senator Harris filled out as a candidate for president in 2020, she also expressed support for decriminalizing federal drug possessions for personal use and sweeping reductions to immigration and custom enforcement operations, including drastic cuts in ICE funding and an open-ended pledge to, quote, end immigration detention.
Yeah.
So I think she gets in. This is what her presidency is actually going to look like.
Now, I have a curious, and I'd love to hear from the callers as well. What I'm curious about is the two minds, because with Donald Trump, you're saying, well, he changed this, he changed moderate, he didn't do this, and then when he was office, he said one thing and he did something else, and I'm okay with that. But then you're with Kamala, you're like, oh, no, she's going to absolutely do this. You're not giving her the same ability to change that you gave Trump. And I'm curious why that is not equatable. Both of them have changed and moderated and changed their positions. I mean, Trump, again, last 6 months has gone from, yay, Roe versus Wade is overturned, to now government funding of IVF and talking about that his administration is going to be great for women's reproductive rights, which is a code word for abortion.
So
how come that's not a big deal?
I'm not concerned in the change. I'm concerned about the core. Who are these people really when they're elected? Do I think that Donald Trump is a rock-ribbed conservative driving full conservative policies, like he popped out of the Heritage Foundation and has now become the president of the United States and is going to deliver that, but now he's moderating himself. But once he gets in, that's what you're going to really see. No, I think that, to your point, we've talked about this before. I think Donald Trump is an American first populist, which means that's the filter by which he looks at the world through policy. And so abortion, not super popular, we'll leave it up to the states. You know, he tries to come out as that perspective. I think that's being more core to who he is. But with Kamala Harris, I think at her core, she is this ACLU questionnaire. She is that progressive. And so she's moderating herself to get elected. But when she gets in, she's not going to be what is the lens she looks through?
Well, here's
that
the thing.
She's going to approach her policy. She's going to look through this lens, say that ICE is a serious problem. We're going to work to defund ICE. We're going to provide gender transitions for federal prisoners and detained illegal immigrants. And we're going to decriminalize drugs. I think that's who she is at her core.
Couldn't she just be doing the same thing that you said that Donald Trump was doing? Changing policies and taking on positions in order to get elected, in order to be that populist. And what I mean by that is we need to look at the time and the situation in which that ACLU questionnaire took place. That was in the 2019 Democrat primary. And if we remember the climate at that time, and I'm not talking, George Floyd is a background there, but more the climate inside of the Democrat primary. Who was one person that was never going to get the nomination, but had a ton of momentum behind him? Didn't even technically belong to the party. Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, all the Bernie bros. And the socialists for a little while inside thought they had some political power and thought that maybe they were going to be able to get their socialist candidate as the standard bearer for the Democrats. Bernie had that. Joe Biden, the moderate, was an afterthought. He was never a moderate Democrat, couldn't possibly do anything despite the fact that he was polling the best against Trump at the time. So Kamala was playing the Democrat populist from what I see. And the reason, and I'll tell you why I see this, but that's what she's doing, is she's going to be as left as Bernie. She's trying to court that same group of people that are pushing Bernie through as well. She's trying to establish that. I think what I'm hearing from that is she's playing politics. And that's what I hear from that. And this is the reason why I come to that conclusion. I haven't heard her say anything like that or support anything like that in the previous 2 decades she's been in public life. I've never, and she's been in positions, especially in Senate.
She supported sanctuary cities when she was in San Francisco.
But hang on, sanctuary cities is not giving gender transition surgery to people in prison. Those are different. We can talk sanctuary cities, but we're talking about the phraseology and the answers inside the ACLU. So if she had been pushing for gender transition surgery for prisoners, if she had been pushing for gender transition surgery for kids in schools, if we had been doing that, okay, fair critique. But we have one time in one instance where she said these things, and I believe she was playing politics at the time. Now, people can disagree with me, and I'd love to hear on the phones. It's fine. You can disagree with me. But the weird part is that we give Donald Trump the same openness that he can play politics and he can change his things based on what the audience wants to feel and what it is. That's why he's saying things about IVF right now, because he's playing it. He's changing his position on it.
But I think that's his core, though. I think he's a moderate populist.
But here's the thing. You don't think that at the core, Kamala could be a politician, and so she will change based on what is going on in the country? And the other part of it is, I understand, let's say that it is in her core, that what she wants desperately is gender transition surgery for all the prisoners that want them free and the public will pay for it. That's at her core.
Yes.
If the politician in her, again, if you're in the presidential office, knows there's no way that can get by. She spent time in the Senate. That's not going to get through the House. It's not going to get through the Senate. There are not enough votes ever for that to happen in the next 2 decades. No, it's not. So I understand the idea. They're coming, oh my God, she's going to do it. She has no ability to accomplish it, even if it was the one thing she promises to do. She doesn't have the ability to accomplish it. What I hear is politics. I hear her playing politics. I dislike that she's playing politics with it, but that's what I hear.
This is what I want to hear from our callers. Give us a call. Do you believe that Kamala Harris is just a politician trying to find her way through these campaigns, that she's moderating herself because at her core, to Billy's point, that's what she is. She's a politician. Or from my perspective, she is a radical leftist who grew up with a dad who was a Marxist, was informed by that type of worldview, spent her politics in San Francisco, California, all the way through that, has been a radical progressive. The ACLU is actually exposing, the questioner from 2019 is actually exposing who she is at her core. And if she's elected, this is the type of leadership you're going to see. And I don't trust her attempt to moderate at all. 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. Let us know what you think about that. Look, if you're considering selling your home, go with the team that's not only going to give you top-level service, but will also help you earn more from the sale of your home than any other agent. Gay Ribble's proven to get more for her sellers because they have ready buyers looking for a home in your area. They don't just make this claim. They can sit down and actually show you their list of over 14,700 buyers. This gives you an immediate advantage. Sure, you can hire any agent to sell your home, but isn't it all about how much you put in your pocket after closing? The Empower Home Team specializes in making sure you make the most amount of money. They will sell your home at your price, or Gay will buy it, guaranteed. Reach out to my friends and realtors, Gay Ribble, and the Empower Home Team of Keller Williams. Call 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or visit GayHasTheBuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. By the way, Bill Gates going to be in the studio on Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday. Going to be nice to see her.
So if you have questions about the housing market, whether or not you should sell your home, interest rates, the new commission structure that's been set up, all that, she'll take your calls live on Thursday on the Jeff and Bill Show. She really is a delightful person. Looking forward to having her here. All right, we'll continue with your calls. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. CNN, out of all places. It's so bad in the media that when they're honest sometimes, and you're just like, It's so refreshing because a lot of it's just especially after going through the illegal immigrant Venezuelan issue in Aurora, where we actually went down and talked to people, and they're like, "Oh yeah, there's Venezuelan gangs here, 100%." And then you turn on the media, and they're like, "You racist! How dare you discuss that stuff?" But CNN coming out with this: Harris told ACLU in 2019 she supports cuts to ICE funding and providing gender transition surgery to detained migrants. As Kamala Harris pivots to the political center in her campaign for president, a 2019 questionnaire from a leading civil rights organization spotlights her past support for left-wing causes such as taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries for detained immigrants and federal prisoners. In an American Civil Liberties Union questionnaire, then Senator Harris filled out as a candidate for president in 2020, she also expressed support for decriminalizing federal drug possession for personal use. That's all of it. That's your meth, that's your fentanyl, that's your heroin, and for sweeping reductions to immigration and custom enforcement operations, including drastic cuts in ICE funding and an open-ended pledge to end immigration detention. I mean, this is like, to Bill's point in the last segment, I'm competing with Bernie Sanders to be as progressive. Can somebody, and we don't have access to our text message machines, but you can provide a comment on our YouTube channel or on X account or any of those, and it'll pop up. We can see those. On Facebook too.
Yeah, no texting. But
the texting just isn't working. What is the argument, Billy? And I know you don't support this, I don't either, but I'm trying to think what is the argument for federal funding of gender transition surgeries for detained migrants?
Yeah, that's a really tough one, but fun intellectual exercise.
Right.
Really fun intellectual exercise. So, okay, now if I had to, oh man, this is a hard one. And the tough one for me is getting over the federal funding. That's the biggest hiccup, because I think you can make, again, this is not a very good argument, but if I had to, if it was like, okay, we're drawing topics out of a hat, and it's like, okay, you've got to defend this. Go. All righty then. You know, like you get at the beauty contest, they give you the question, like, how do you do it? And then up there, like the North Carolina candidates with the maps and the people in the maps, and some people don't have maps.
Did you hear that she was like, really, who brought it up recently?
Yeah. Oh, I forgot.
Was it Elon Musk that brought it up again?
I think it was. Yeah, she was like depressed. She was like depressed. Kill herself. Yeah, bunch of stuff. Yeah, after that. And I can see why. So this is going to be my maps moment. This is a hard one, but if I would say that if we get them, and again, the federal funding is the hard part, but if we get them the gender transition surgery they need, they are less likely to become problems either inside incarceration or recidivism, because they're going to be able to live their best life. They're going to be able to be the people they want to be, and then we can move them forward through care and rehabilitation, and that's where I would go with it. I'm not saying it's a persuasive argument.
I thought you were going to say there are going to be less problems because they got their wieners chopped off.
No, it's just the idea that now they are who they want to be, and when they are allowed and we treat them as the person they want to be, we can treat them with more respect. We can identify who they are, and we can get them through the rehabilitation programs. And I would say then they will not come back and reoffend. I can't prove that in any way, shape, or form. But if I had to make the argument, that's where I would go with it. But the federal funding makes it really difficult for me, because it is the funding on what I would say, this type of procedure for either immigrants or for people that are incarcerated. And I'm not certain that we need to have this type of surgery for someone that is incarcerated personally. But if I had to make the argument,
I've never seen you qualify.
Oh, this is so hard. This is so hard for me. And the other part is that I would have to look for private funding. Is that it would break me on the federal funding. That's the part that is so hard to get over. But I would then, if I had to include the federal funding, I would say, well, don't all of us want our community? Isn't the community invested in the fact that these prisoners are going to be less? They're not going to be as angry and and they're not then going to go out and offend. And that's the problem. Is like I always talk about the caller sometimes coming to a conclusion and then working backwards. This is one in which you have to come to the conclusion being. They're going to be less of a problem either in the system or when they're in public. You have to start there and then see if you can build the case backwards. And that's why it is so. That's why I'm having problems with it. I mean, I've got to work backwards to do this, and it's so hard for me.
So here's my concern about Kamala. And by the way, well done, Billy. I know you didn't agree with that. We were talking on there. I'm like, see if you go tap into your own debate.
That was hard history. Oh, that's hard.
And see if you can defend that.
I could run that though. If we had to do it. If we had to do a debate, I think I could run it. I don't think I'd win, but I think I could run that as a case. Yeah, I could probably do it.
And you and I remember, I wasn't officially on ever a debate team, but I did some debate contests in college, and then in my professional career, I've done some debates.
And some of the stuff you went through as far as your master's degree and debating and stuff, there is some intellectual debate and some qualifications there where there's some questions asked. You have to justify some things, and
I've judged some high school debate contests.
Yeah.
So the kid. And you feel for them that get the thing that you're just and I remember, I think I had to debate one time in a competition. It is not morally wrong to commit suicide.
Oh, wow.
And you're just like, and you're like reaching. You can tell when the kid is debating something he morally opposes.
Yep.
But is doing his best. Well done.
Yeah.
Billy.
Thank you.
But here's my concern.
Yeah.
So I think this is real Kamala Harris, and anybody who actually sat down and was like, whoa, this person wants to be the president of the United States. They're going to have the veto pen. They can they're the top of the party. So their agenda becomes the party's agenda.
Yeah.
She's going to get in there and push this agenda because how do you defend that, right? Federal taxpayer funding for detained migrants getting sex change operations while defunding ICE. Okay. That you just go, whoa, that is huge. So progressive.
It is huge. And I still think, again, I'm not certain that Kamala is clever enough, but I still say that the best way tonight in the debate, because some of these things are going to come up, is to say, I have learned more about it and my position has changed and evolved.
Yeah.
And it could be a very good moment for Kamala and a bad moment for Trump if she says, unlike my opponent, who still believes the 2020 election was stolen from him, despite no evidence showing that happened, and everything else that he did and came out publicly and said about a stolen election, and he's threatening it again. He can't learn from past mistakes. He can't learn with new information. I can. That's the sign of an adult. That's the sign of a president.
So
she does that.
If she does
it
that,
may work.
It would show that this isn't who her core is. But if she doesn't do that,
yes,
then I think this does reflect her core.
Yeah. If she gets tripped up, if she goes into the word salad, I can't. Then I think you're right. Yeah,
I came across this audio. This is not a conservative post that I sent you, Billy. This was,
I was surprised. Yeah,
a Kamala Harris paid promotion through one of those Instagram accounts where they ask Harris voters why they support her.
What's the number one reason you're voting for Kamala Harris?
I think a disavowal of fascism is a pretty good reason to vote for her. She represents the future in all ways.
She represents the good in the world that should be showcased in the United States.
I think the most important is getting our country back on track. The first woman and the most amazing human to do it, and we're lucky to be able to vote for her.
Saving democracy and humanity.
Wow.
I don't know how you compete with that.
As far as ditches vibes.
Well, exactly. She's the good in the world.
Yeah. Here's the other part is if you look, I think it's the third or fourth responder. We go back to our poll yesterday about who thinks the country is going in the right or wrong direction.
Yeah, right.
There's a Kamala voter who thinks the country is going in the wrong direction.
I know.
And that is not what you would have read inside of the New York Times Siena poll based on, and that's not what we heard from people talking about, 60% of the people responding thought
She's
it was.
in power.
Yeah.
I can't.
I know.
That's
And
where I
the
go.
part.
How do I communicate to that?
Yeah. How do you? That is the hard part, is because if she can continue to run this on vibes, she can win. I saw some focus group stuff yesterday that I was diving into. I had some time yesterday afternoon and got down a rabbit hole, and some recent focus groups, and they were talking about some of those persuadable voters, people that had voted for Trump before once or twice, aren't certain they can support him now, people that didn't support Biden last time, sat it out or did something else, and can they support Kamala? People that did support Biden, and can they support Kamala, but they're not sure. And it came down to, I like her, but I need more information about what she's going to do. And that plays into your point about the ACLU. If that is her core and she doesn't have a good answer for that, and she stumbles and she just says, well, my values are this and blah, 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 and she avoids the question, those people, she's going to push them away. They're not going to feel comfortable, I believe, where she is. So she's got to figure out a way to dance the vibes, but weave in just enough policy.
And here's why this terrifies me.
Yeah.
We made a lot of these same arguments in 2008, man.
Yeah, I
Most
think you're right. I think you're
liberal
right.
senator, look at his pastor. At his core, he's a progressive. And Barack Obama got elected on vibes.
Oh,
and then reelected on vibes. And I sat in Mitt Romney's office, campaign office here in Jefferson County, not his actual office, but the official campaign office, and watched vibes roll us over and win again. You gotta take that seriously. I'm sorry. You can't just laugh it off and go, well, they're a bunch of idiots. Because there's a lot of them out there that vote on vibes.
Yeah, a lot of it is how you feel about a candidate. And this is going to kind of crystallize those kind of feelings about whether or not you like the candidate or not. And I want to talk to you about some feelings as well that I've got. These are some feelings that I'm not having. Feelings of pain. I'm working with a great team, medical team at Balance Well Space. Now, let me ask you a question. It's kind of crazy, but what would it take for you to get into the mosh pit at a concert? I know it sounds crazy, but hang on. This old dude right here, this past Saturday at a concert, I'm looking longingly over that mosh pit. Can I? Can I go around? Do you think? Why am I thinking that at my age? Because of my friends at Balance Well Space. 6 months ago, before I started working with them, no way would I ever have even considered that I would have the ability to do that. But that's the change they've made in my life. I know that you're struggling with pain. I know there are things that you're not doing anymore because of the pain that you're in. That's why I need you to talk to my friends at Balance Well Space. Brand new offices in Lowry, right across from Hangar 2. Check them out at balancewellspace.com. This is why you need to talk to them. Integrative medicine. I didn't know what that meant until I started working with them. Integrative medicine means when you walk into the office, there's a whole variety of treatments and modalities that are available for you that normally you'd have to drive all over town for. I'm talking about receiving chiropractic care, neuropathic care, physical rehabilitation, wave therapy, regenerative care, trigger point injections, and so many more. I don't have time to list them all, and they have some amazing cutting-edge, non-invasive modalities as well that can do some incredible things to relieve your pain. They have non-invasive solutions for neuropathy, for regenerative care. Right now, I am regenerating the meniscus in my left knee as we sit here. And that's part of the reason I thought, maybe this old dude can jump in the mosh pit. I have 2 vertebrae in my back that are fusing together. I don't have the pain, the tingling, the restricted movement anymore. That's why this old dude was thinking, maybe I go and jump in that mosh pit. Did a recent evaluation. I used to have only 40 degrees of movement, pain-free in my right hip. I now have full 90-degree movement, completely pain-free. That's because of my friends at Balance Well Space. Check them out and make an appointment, balancewellspace.com. You go in, they do an evaluation, they ask you about your pain, they also ask you about your goals. What are the things that you're not doing that you really want to? They then create a custom pain plan just for you, and they go to work. They then evaluate you regularly, something your current medical team doesn't do. Your doctors never get together and talk about you and your pain because they're in different offices. They never talk. This is one office, one team that is focused on getting you better, getting you back to doing the things you're not doing anymore. Talk to Dr. Julie, Dr. Jess, the entire team there. They're fantastic. I want you to talk to the team that I trust. balancewellspace.com. They can make the same difference in your life that they have made in mine. Me, jumping in a mosh pit at my age. Stupid idea, but that's how good I felt. Call them today. Check them out, balancewellspace.com, balancewellspace.com. Do me a favor. Tell them you heard about them on the Jeff and Bill Show. Helps us out.
Billy in the mosh pit. Thank you.
Dude, I was so close,
Balance Well Space. Dude, we got to get to that next. That's next concert.
Yes.
Thanks to Balance Well Space.
Absolutely.
I'm competing with the 20-year-olds in the mosh pit. That is a sales hook right there.
Thank you. I appreciate that, man.
All right. We'll continue with your calls and texts. Give us a call about Kamala Harris and this ACLU questionnaire. Is she really as progressive as this tells us? Or is she just trying to win a primary and she's more moderate, actually? You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Let's go to the phone lines. Brian, Colorado. What do you think of Kamala Harris in the debate tonight?
Well, at first, I mean, the fact we're even discussing gender-altering surgery for convicted criminals is just bizarro world to me. So I can't even wrap my head around that. But I'm going to move on from that. And Kamala doesn't have a record to run on. Donald Trump has a record to run on. And, when Donald Trump was running in 2016, you had people saying he wasn't conservative enough because he was a centrist. And Democrats, he didn't run as a Democrat because they were so far left at that point after Obama that he couldn't even identify with them. So I think Trump's at his core, like Jeff said, he's always been in the center, right or left of certain issues, and hasn't wavered in that, even both sides attacking him. Kamala with this ACLU questionnaire, come on, that's who she is. And it's not giving her the same grace as Trump to say now she's strong on borders and wants to lower taxes for the middle class and small business development. That's all phony and fake. Anyone can see through that.
I wish anyone could see it, but Brian, we played some audio of people that were saying she's the good in the world. She's going to save democracy. And I've always said this, like, if you actually analyze policy, you're more likely to be a conservative, but this kind of feel good vibe stuff, that might be enough to get her across the finish line. Brian, I appreciate the call. We're just out of time at this hour. Big debate tonight. We'll continue this conversation. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. Exclusive debate coverage starts at 5 o'clock tonight.
It is 8 a.m. Ohio City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado, on this Tuesday, September. Big day as the debate, the big battle between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris takes place tonight. You're not going to want to miss this. News Talk 710 KNUS is proud to present coverage of the ABC News presidential debate simulcast. Join Larry Elder at 5 p.m. for a pre-debate special with Dennis Prager, Sebastian Gorka, Tony Perkins, and more. Then stay with us for live coverage of the debate on Tuesday night, starting at 7 p.m. for election coverage you can trust. Stay with 710 KNUS. By the way, Larry Elder is going to be joining us in the 9 o'clock hour. Talk a little bit about
that'll
this.
Be really cool.
It's going to be a ton of fun to hear from him. He came to multiple Western conservative summits, including this last one.
Oh, I'm glad he's part of the station again.
I think he ran. He was in the presidential primary.
Yes, he was. Yeah, he ran for governor recently and then ran in the presidential primary. Neither worked out well. So now he's back doing what he should be doing, which is talk radio. I love him on the air.
Some of us are good in this lane. I oftentimes get that question. You going to run for office? I don't know.
No,
probably
no,
not.
Never.
I'm happy in this lane.
Yes.
I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they're like, "Man, you get paid to say what other people are thinking." And I was like, "That is exactly right."
Yeah, it was a number of years ago that that one of my kids came up to me, and I hadn't thought about it this way because I'd seen some of the stuff I was doing on FM radio and listening to some things, and it came over and like, Dad, it's really cool that you get to be paid to be you.
Right, exactly.
Okay, it's kind of cool. Okay, I'm thinking better about this now. This is good. Yeah.
So all the great debate coverage happening on 710 KNUS. You don't need to go to those other places.
No.
Stay here, hang out with us, and we're going to be covering it all for you. So coming up in this hour, a little bit later in this hour, Dustin Zvonik's going to join us. He's got a new opinion piece detailing what the Aurora City Council and the mayor are doing to address homelessness in the city of Aurora. It's different than what Denver's doing.
Yeah, I thought it was just send them back to Denver. I was wrong. That's not what he said.
Which, you could do.
Oh, yeah, that's what I thought. Easiest thing is like
Mayor Mike Johnston sure seems to love y'all.
I know.
He likes to brag about all the great things they're doing for the homeless in the city of Denver.
And even moving some of his out into Aurora facilities. So I just think we can return them to you. I thought that was going to be Dustin's idea, but no, he has something that sounds like it's actually going to work, pun intended. So we'll see.
That is the pun intended, right?
Yes, exactly.
It's called a work first
model.
Model versus a housing first model.
Yeah.
But so Billy, we went down to these apartment complexes on Thursday of last week, these Venezuelan run apartment complexes, and it's a complicated issue. I was telling my kids this because they're like, how do we solve this? What do we do?
Yeah.
And I said, if it was easy, we'd have a solution for it. You have multiple factors affecting it, but one of them is bad personal decision making.
Yeah.
So you just have people drinking at 10:30 in the morning.
Yep.
On a Thursday.
Yeah, on a Thursday.
Now, if it's your day off, I get that, right?
Yeah.
It's your day off. Maybe you work through the weekends, and Thursday's your day off. You're going to pop a cold one at 10:30 in the morning, Joy, but no, that wasn't it. I think you've created enough of a system in this country where you can just live that way. If you want to, you can just live that way.
Yeah, I think there are enough, and we've talked to people that, especially our friends down at Step Denver, talked about the idea of the unseen support services for those people that are living on the streets.
Yeah.
The fact that people will come by if you stand on a street corner and they'll hand you money. The fact that if you hang out in an encampment and there are enough of you, people will drive by and get you food. Mayor Mike Kaufman of Aurora was on this show, talked about when he went undercover, and he said, and this was the part that shocked me, he ate better on the street than he did in the shelter. And you're like, hang on. So the idea being, if you just functionally, the food, if you're getting better food on the street and you can still feed your addiction, why would you ever transition into that shelter unless you really wanted to do something better with yourself? You're like, this is it. I've hit rock bottom. I've got to do something and change. And that's what our friends at Step Denver talk about, is those people that have hit rock bottom and have to make a change. They give them the ability, but it is a work first model. And why would you ever if you're happy with the life that you're living, if food shows up morning and night when you're hungry, and then you just have to find enough money to feed your addiction throughout the rest of the day, and if the people of Denver are nice enough to just hand you the cash, well, what's the motivation for you to get off the street at that
exactly.
point? Yeah,
exactly. And I'm going to talk to Dustin Zabonik. I appreciate they're putting together this Work First program.
Yes.
And then you can have different communities, right? You can go into Denver and just live that lifestyle.
Yeah.
Now, you can't have a tent and be drunk in a tent like you used to be able to in the city of Denver. But man, we've created enough systems for people. If they want to live that, they can.
Maybe that's the next mayor's thing is going to do. Is going to say the way we're going to fix this housing thing is we're going to make sure that it's okay that everybody sleeps in the tent. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's Denver sponsored tents. Maybe that's it. See, now they're inside. He's just going to say, see, they have a roof over their head. Now that's inside, so it counts.
Sponsored tent.
Exactly. Why not?
So we'll talk to Dustin Zabonik, an at-large member of the Aurora City Council, coming up here around 8:30. You're not going to miss that. And then Larry Elder at 9. But let's first check in on the news and commentary with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. 64 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 87 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
Yeah, and this was a questionnaire that she filled out for the ACLU. And this questionnaire is really an interesting snapshot in time of that 2019 Democratic primary. Kamala Harris was trying to get to the left of Bernie Sanders. She was trying to get to the left of Elizabeth Warren. And
Andrew Kaczynski on CNN, according to a newly discovered ACLU survey, Kamala Harris wanted to cut ICE funding, but provide gender transition surgeries to illegals who were locked in prison. So if a dude wants to be a lady, no problem if you're illegal and in prison.
Really see that in a lot of these answers, and I want to walk our viewers through a little bit of what she said. Let's just take immigration and look at what she said here. She said on immigration, she made this open-ended pledge to end immigrant detention. She said she supported taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries for detained migrants. She also said she
taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries for detained migrants. She
migrants.
actually said she supported that.
Yes, and VP Harris, the pancake maker and ultimate flip-flopper, warning all Americans who listen to Ricky Smiley. Former President Trump will lie in tonight's first and probably last presidential debate, 7 o'clock Mountain Time on ABC.
He plays from this really old and tired playbook, right? Where there's no floor for him in terms of how low he will go. And we should be prepared for that. We should be prepared for the fact that he is not burdened by telling the truth.
Burdened. She loves that word, burdened.
And we should be prepared for the fact that he is probably going to speak a lot of untruth. And ultimately, what I intend to point out is what many people know, and certainly as I'm traveling the country in this campaign. He tends to fight for himself, not for the American people. And I think that's going to come out during the course of the debate. But I expect that he's going to, I think he's going to lie.
Okay. Get some croutons for that word salad. A 56-year-old Denver man has been cited for posting anti-immigrant signs near the state capitol in March. Christopher Bawley was cited on a municipal code violation for illegally posting on public or private property, but the district attorney's office says that he won't face hate crime charges. Similar signs were posted along Colfax last month, and police say the two cases appear to be related, but no arrests have been made.
How would you do hate crimes on a sign? You have free speech in this country. I understand you can find it offensive, very offensive. This is the worst thing that's ever been posted. You could find it that way, but how do you charge? Because they put it up.
Yeah, I mean it's the city's property, I guess. No, that's a great question. I don't know if it's really.
Yeah, it'll be city property. That'll be the issue. You can't go around hanging up your signs on city property, regardless of what they say.
But I understand. Okay, that could be a crime in itself.
Yeah, that's.
But how do you get to a hate crime?
I don't know.
Yeah, no.
For me, hate crimes are always weird enhancers for sentencing,
right?
And I rarely agree with them because I would assume that there aren't many crimes done out of love and compassion and
Right,
happiness. I'm pretty sure that at some point or another
Thank
there's some
you.
anger involved.
Thank
So that's the part that I just don't get. Yeah.
No, either do I. It doesn't make any sense. But I have to say the signs were really well done. I don't know if you went to the Art Institute or where, but they're really nice. They're really
I've never
nice
heard of this
signs.
guy. Everyone, I've been in Republican politics for in this state for over a decade, and everyone's this is a Republican activist out of Aurora. I've never heard of the guy.
Really?
Have you heard of him?
No, I have
I hadn't
not.
heard
But
of it.
he's got a lot of creativity and a lot of talent. I mean, seriously, the signs are pretty impressive.
They sure got a lot of attention, man. I've never seen Democrats respond so fast to a thing in my life. Every single one of them within like 15 minutes was like, this crime against humanity must be addressed. We will be mobilizing all forces at our disposal to address this terrible injustice.
Oh man, well, good for him. Now you know how to get something done.
Apparently,
right? The man who caused a shelter-in-place alert at Rocky Mountain National Park Sunday evening is in custody. The National Park Service says that 23-year-old Wade Thifault led rangers on a high-speed chase down Trail Ridge Road, driving so recklessly that they had to end the pursuit. Estes Park tried to stop him with spike strips near the park's Beaver Meadows entrance, but he crashed into another car. 3 people in the other car were injured, 1 critically. Thifault ran away from the crash scene and was later arrested.
Look, Simba. Everything the light touches is our kingdom. Wow. A king's time as ruler rises and falls like the sun. One day, Simba, the sun will set on my time here.
Greatest voice ever, James Earl Jones, passed away at the age of 93. Yes, he was Darth Vader and the voice of CNN and many others, including The Field of Dreams and Mufasa and the Lion King.
Best performance, you think, Blake? Bill?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that one for me, it's the classic. It's Vader. Has to be.
Vader
has to be because of
was that from Star Trek?
Yeah, no, yeah, Star Trek, absolutely. Yes, he got in a fight with Spock with their laser swords. Yes,
You have failed me for the last time, Admiral.
Yeah.
Captain Piet.
Yes, my lord.
What was he doing there, Billy? I don't know. I was confused.
Disobeyed me for the last time. They're just mad about. I forgot in that exact scene. It's the idea that he's going to crush rebels. He's going to crush the idea that you do not listen to me. You don't. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Basically, and it's wipe them out. All of them. Is that
Trying
Palpatine,
to stump
yeah.
Billy on Star Wars. How about this one?
Make ready to land our troops beyond their energy field, then deploy the fleet so that nothing gets off the system. You are in command now, Admiral.
Okay, I'm confused. What was that?
Yeah, that should be Endor when they're going into Endor and they're trying to get behind the energy field, and yeah, so then they put the fleet
Endor, is that
outside.
Lord of the Rings?
No, that is the planet with the cute little with the Ewoks with all the teddy bears on it.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's not Endor; it's a moon of Endor. They're on. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it's not actually they're on a moon. Yeah.
I love you, Billy.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
You are amazing.
I got Billy on music and anything Star Wars and snakes, and Blake, I got you on all things sports, and I
There
just
you
sit here
go.
as a little political
There
nerd.
you
So
go.
it all works together. That's why the show
Yeah.
works. I think it's a generational difference. Sandlot was great. He was great in Sandlot. And then
yeah, that was a great one.
that's where he plays the blind guy at the end that got hit by the pitch, and then the all the Tom Clancy movies he was in.
Oh, that's
Patriot
right, yeah.
games and
Patriot games. He's great.
yeah, fantastic. Man, I miss him already.
Yeah, we're gonna miss him. I'm sure AI will have all other voices from James Earl Jones in the near future in the next 20, 30 years. Here's a sad story. The widow of Columbus Blue Jackets star Johnny Gaudreau, known to many as Johnny Hockey, is pregnant with the couple's third child. Meredith Gaudreau made the announcement during her tear-filled statement at the memorial service for Johnny and his brother Matthew on Monday. Both were killed on August 29th when they were struck by a suspected drunk driver while riding bicycles on the eve of their sister's wedding. Matthew's widow, Madeline, is also pregnant with their first baby. 61 in Lakewood, 60 in Castle Rock, and 64 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue Tuesday morning. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Continued warm, partly cloudy with temperatures 80s and 90s today, mid to upper 80s tomorrow, and near 90 on Thursday. By Friday and into the weekend, a touch cooler, comfortable. Friday through Sunday's highs will be 80s. Only a few isolated thunderstorms will be around today, and a better chance tomorrow than Thursday through Sunday, dry. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed payments, giving you a peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show, a very special broadcast. In a few hours, the rumble, the battle heard around the world. Yeah. Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris. Last time there was a presidential debate, one of those presidents withdrew. Yeah. My goodness, what could happen? Who knows? It's all up in the air. Let's go to the phone lines. Tom, Denver, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Jeff. You mentioned that Trump should walk across the stage and shake Kamala's hand, and that might throw her off her game a little bit. I know that she was doing a mock debate, and they had some guy apparently in a box suit with a red tie. So I'm thinking that what would throw her game off a little bit more is if Trump came out with a John Fetterman hood on and Joe's aviator glasses, his shades, carrying a black milk crate for her to stand on, and then walk across the stage and shake her hand and just whisper in her ear that I'm going to eat you for lunch.
The entertainment factor is missing from these. I wish they'd, and maybe it's because I've just been so used to the MMA and the boxing walkouts and the wrestling and all that stuff. Yeah. It'd be fun. Yeah. It would appeal to the kids, as they say, to have a little bit of that.
Hey, because Kamala cheats, I would have to say somebody needs to check her ears to see if she has an earpiece,
Well, they actually have rules against no earpieces, so that's already going to be they
But do they check?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to.
Really? Let me see your ears, because I was backstage with Mitt Romney, and they never checked any of that stuff.
Yeah,
but maybe I don't know. But I think it's a lot. It's actually quite hard to talk and listen at the same time with an earpiece.
Yeah, it is.
So believe me, somebody who has to deal with this on a daily basis. I'm not sure it's quite there. Now, what do you expect to see from Trump tonight? I know you want to see that, Tom. It'd be fun to be entertaining, but from your perspective, what does Donald Trump do to secure a victory tonight?
Well, I think that he's just going to have to constantly point out, where he had left the country before they got in office. He's just going to have to point it out. I think a lot of the Democrats, these kids, the college kids and stuff like that, they're set. And I think that, I don't want to say they've been indoctrinated, but their parents, I would assume the majority of them are liberal, and those kids have been indoctrinated by the parents. So it's going to be hard to change their mind. After he just needs to stay on point. Afterward,
go ahead, Tom. Sorry.
I was going to say afterwards, when he's out of there and he's on the campaign trail, I would just say, wherever he goes, he needs to have some sort of a 20-foot screen with all of his accomplishments on a scrolling loop, and just whatever he's talking about in the background, that thing is on a constant scrolling loop because he's not covering everything he did. And
I unfortunately, I think that Donald Trump has to perform so much better than Kamala Harris does in order for the media to notice. So, for instance, let's talk about the last debate with Joe Biden. It was quite shocking to see Van Jones and the rest of them immediately following the debate going, that was a disastrous performance because, and I was in the spin room after the Romney debate. Pat Buchanan's sister, I'm trying to remember her name, but it was my job to hold her little sign, and we went around and spoke to media, and you know how it is. They all run out there. Oh, that was the most amazing debate performance I've ever seen. Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, they're all going to become, great leaders for this country. Did you see what they laid out? That's their role. That's their job. It's called the spin room for a reason. But I think for the media to acknowledge Donald Trump doing well or Kamala Harris performing poorly, he has to go so much beyond just squeaking out a win or just performing a little bit better for the media to acknowledge that he may have won the debate. Do you think that's right, Tom?
Well, I think that they're set in their ways. No matter what he says, they're jaded and they're leaning left. I mean, and that's part of the reasons why this debate is being held by ABC. I mean, when was the last time there was a presidential debate that was held by a, like Fox News or something like that?
Yeah, I think in the last presidential cycle, Fox News held one, and they held one in the primary as well. But Tom, I wanted to explore something with you for a sec. You talked about Donald Trump reminding people where he left the country. We understand that is in 2020, right? That's in the middle of COVID. I'm not certain that's the best play. And I think that's part of the problem Trump has is he needs to ignore what happened during COVID in order to make the case that if we go back to that line, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Well, yeah, because 4 years ago we were shut down, we're wearing masks and people were dying. So you would assume that right now you would be better off. And that's a hard play for Trump. How does he overcome that? Because I don't think he can win if he says, well, when I left the country, we were, in the middle of a pandemic. I'm not sure that's a good play.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Bill, but and that's my reasoning behind when he gets out of there. He can mention, hey, wherever I go from here on out, take a look at my scrolling screen of my accomplishments. COVID, it set back the country and it set back the nation or the world.
And I understand what you're saying there. The problem I would say with the scrolling screen would be he has one major legislative accomplishment. Everything else was done through executive order, which is the idea that we don't want the next president coming in and ruling through executive orders. That would be horrible. So that, again, is going to be a weakness. I understand there's this impression of he accomplished all of these things, but there really isn't a long laundry list inside of that. He doesn't have a long scrolling list, unfortunately, and especially not legislatively.
I think legislatively is one thing, but you look at the Supreme Court justice picks, you look at the quality of the economy, black unemployment rates, all that stuff.
But here's the thing, though.
You could say that's not legislative, but I think those are accomplishments under his leadership.
Oh, absolutely. But the fundamentals of the economy are stronger now than they were under Trump. Black unemployment is lower now than it was under Trump. So he doesn't have this laundry list. And that's the problem. That's it. I mean, I get Tom's point. It's a good idea, but that's the problem. He doesn't have a laundry list of those things.
No wars.
Yeah, but last time I checked, Biden didn't start any wars either. And so that's a hard argument. It's a hard argument to say that because I'm in office, nothing else bad happened in the world. That's taking credit for something you don't necessarily have control over. You can't go out and tell people not to invade or not to shoot people. And there were things going on as far as Syria and everywhere else.
No, I don't know. All right, that's where you and I disagree. All right,
that's
Tom,
fair.
I appreciate the call. Thanks so much. For many of us, it's happening. Your hair is thinning. Your crown's disappearing. Maybe hair loss has you feeling your identity is lost altogether. Well, I've got good news for you. It's an incredible yet simple one-day treatment that starts growing your own natural hair the very next day, and it's guaranteed to grow for life. It's the Advanced FUE from Advanced Hair. We've all seen the pills and lotions that come with monthly subscriptions. They help retain what you have. But what if what you want is your own natural hair permanently in specific areas? From Advanced Hair's state-of-the-art facilities to world-class Dr. Tanya Pauls, it's not maybe will your hair regrow. It's guaranteed that your new hair will grow. You decide how much, how thick, and where. It's why Advanced Hair is the winner of Westward's Best of Denver. For your free consultation, $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Call 720-459-HAIR. That's 720-459-HAIR or advancedhair.com. Advancedhair.com. When we return, Destin Zvonik is going to join us, at-large Aurora City Council member, currently serving as Mayor Pro Tem. He's got a new plan to address homelessness in Aurora, and it's different than what Mike Johnston's doing. Who's got the better ideas? You're not going to want to miss this conversation than Larry Elder in the 9 o'clock hour. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
Big night here on 710 KNUS. We're proud to present coverage of the ABC News presidential debate simulcast. Join Larry Elder at 5 p.m. for a pre-debate special with Dennis Prager, Sebastian Gorka, Tony Perkins, and more. Then stay with us for live coverage of the debate on Tuesday night starting at 7 p.m. For election coverage you can trust, stay with 710 KNUS. Saw this opinion piece in the Denver Post over the weekend. Here's why Aurora put work first with new homeless shelter. The former Crown Plaza Hotel will be repurposed as the Aurora Regional Navigation Campus. It was written by Dustin Zvonek. Dustin serves as the at-large Aurora City Council member, currently also serving as the mayor pro tem. And he's put together a plan that has different tiers. Starts with compassion, then gets to courage, then gets to commitment. The idea being we're going to go about serving the homeless in our communities in a different way than Denver is, and hopefully get them into a place of sufficiency. I asked good friend of the program, Dustin Zvonek, to join us. He's on the program. Dustin, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Happy to be here.
So give the folks an overview of your plan to address homelessness in the city of Aurora.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I ran for council back in 2021, you might remember downtown Denver at that time looked like tent city. And I know there's still pockets of the city that look like that, but it was overwhelmed. Well, it wasn't too different in the city of Aurora. When I was running, I heard from residents across the city, small business owners, homeowners that were sick and tired of the encampments that were on the sides of our highways. In some areas, they'd be just beyond backyard fence lines. They were all along, the various corridors, the Colfax corridor, the Havana corridor, where small businesses, particularly retail, were being impacted by the presence of these homeless encampments. They were a health and safety issue, not just for the residents and the people around it, but frankly for the people who are inhabiting them. And so at that time, we wanted to attack the challenge of homelessness in a different way. For nearly 20 years, the federal government has had a policy preference for what's known as housing first. And we've seen housing first play out in lots of large cities. San Francisco is the most famous of them. But the idea of housing first is that you give people, by taking people off the road or off the streets and putting them into housing, and not having any expectation or conditions for that housing, now all of a sudden they're housed because they're no longer homeless, right? But the fact of the matter is that isn't addressing the how they got there. This isn't addressing, most people, when they think of homelessness on the extremes, you think of this is somebody who just fell on tough times and there are very few people who actually fall on tough times who are going to the encampments. Most of the people who find themselves into tough economic situations, they end up at the shelters, they end up couch surfing, maybe in their car. They're not in these encampments. The types of homeless that are going into the encampments are people who have severe mental health issues in many cases. Most of them have addiction issues, and many of them a combination of the two. And so if you really want to change their condition and have compassion for humanity, the goal ought to be to address those issues, those root causes, not just simply put them into housing and say, we did it. That's what Denver is doing. Denver, when Mike Johnson became mayor, he went out and said, I'm going to put 1,000 people by the end of the year off the streets. And he did this because he wanted to clean up for businesses. Taking homeless people off the streets and putting them into housing and saying we did it, I call hide the homeless. Because people are still homeless. They're not working towards self-sufficiency.
Oh no. I think we lost him.
And so
Dustin, are you there? There you okay, we lost you there for a second. Yeah, so we're just talking about aiding the homeless and you're hiding them, and that's where we lost you on a cell phone.
Yeah, sorry. The game of hide the homeless is not actually helping people to move towards self-sufficiency. And so that was what we wanted our program to focus on, is this idea that when people come in off the street, so we have a camping ban in our city, and we're actually going to make it stronger. And what I mean by that is that we're going to have less time that people have to actually move on before we abate their encampment. The goal is to move them into that first tier, where very little in terms of services that will be offered to them, but they have the option should they choose to go through the navigation. And think about the navigation center as kind of case managers. Each person will have their own unique path to self-sufficiency. For some people, it might be a few months, and for some people, it might be 18 months or 2 years. But the goal is to be working toward, whether it's through addiction and recovery or mental health treatment, and working toward, and then obviously job training to work toward their ability to be in, whether it's affordable housing and eventually market rate housing. And so that's why we call it work first as opposed to housing first, because unlike housing first, we actually are going to place conditions on their ability to keep moving through and then get to that final step, which is where they'd have their own private room where you have to be working, you have to be contributing toward some portion of your income towards basically a rent, and you have to continue to work through whatever processes, whether that or whatever programs that are needed for you to keep moving towards self-sufficiency.
What are some of the conditions that you are requiring these folks to abide by?
I mean, very crazy conditions. Things like you have to be participating in addiction and recovery programs if that's needed. You need to be dealing with your mental health issues if that's what's needed. You need to be participating in workforce training or workforce development or actively looking for a job. That is needed for everybody, right? So it's the conditions are, and it's a carrot and stick thing, right? So to get in from tier 1 to tier 2, we're just simply saying we need you to start participating in meeting with the case manager to help define what that path is for you to move forward. So to get to tier 2, you have to be willing to start participating in those programs. Then to get to tier 3, you have to be that next step of I'm participating and I'm working. Because we know in tier 2, you're not going to take somebody who has a very significant mental health and addiction issue and go from tier 1 to working, right? No employer, they're not going to be ready to be employed. But there's going to be opportunities on the campus to start working. There's going to be job training on the campus to start preparing yourself. So that condition for tier 2 is simply preparing yourself to go to tier 3, which is where you'll start to have employment. There's a program already in Aurora called Ready to Work. It's part of the Bridge House where they do exactly that. The challenge that we have is that because the federal government is a housing first priority, or they place a preference on housing first, we can't get any sort of funding from HUD years. And it's why Step Denver, another really popular program that is, I think, aligned with what we want to do. They place all sorts of conditions on their participants, but they don't take any federal funding because they don't want to compromise their program that they've seen work so effectively in helping people achieve self-sufficiency. And that's what we want to do, is we want to be non-compromising on those latter stages, so that way we can actually see people move from homelessness to self on the lowest level of government subsidy that they possibly need. And what we mean by that, people say, what does the lowest level mean? You might have a disability, so there might be some sort of, because there's a lot of disabled veterans and others who might have some level of government service, but what our goal is to see the lowest level of government assistance possible to moving into, whether, like I said, affordable housing or market rate housing. The other piece of this campus that we've done differently is we are going to bring in a nonprofit partner that shares our values and is aligned to this work first vision to run it. We don't believe the city or the government ought to run this. We will help to contribute to it, but they will ultimately be responsible for running it, and going forward, they will be responsible for raising private dollars to keep it running. What I want to see is the city of Aurora, which is not a city and county, and in Colorado, counties deal with health and human services and have resources for that. Cities don't. So Aurora is unique in this because we span across 4 counties and we're such a big city that we have spent millions of dollars annually to address homelessness. I want to see the amount of taxpayer resources that are being spent on this go down and down and down over time. And if you have a program, and I think that, I'm sure that it's true for the two of you and for your listeners, if there's a program out there that's providing a good service, you're willing to contribute to it. And that's what we're telling the operator that's going to be operating our navigation campus. If we're doing a good service for our community, it's going to attract philanthropic dollars. and it's going to take. That means it'll be less reliant on government, and that's part of where we want. That's part of the goals that we have and the metrics that we'll be measuring the operator by going forward.
Talking with Dustin Zvonek, at-large Aurora City Council member, currently serving as the mayor pro tem. Look, Dustin, I appreciate what y'all are building. You're building a pathway for people to get out of homelessness and poverty if they want to, and that's the big qualification and the concern I have. If they want to, can't they just go over to Denver and, my goodness, Mike Johnson will provide a home for you. You can continue to live drug addicted or alcohol addicted. We won't provide workforce training for you or work requirements because that's not fair. I remember one city council member saying how terrible it was that places like Catholic Charities were actually requiring you to work. And so you have this, we basically set up systems in our country where you can live drunk and drug addicted and somebody will take care of you and you can just go on about doing that. So how do you compete with that?
Yeah, no, look, I have, and this is where the contrast is going to become, it's great for us to have a city like Denver right next to us, because you're absolutely right. The majority of people, so our goal as elected officials in Aurora is we want to get the homeless off the sides of our roads and, out of the open space areas, because they're huge public safety and public health issues. So that is priority one. Priority two is for everybody who, and even if it's the 5%, 10%, if we're only impacting some, the fact that we're helping anybody who would otherwise not have the experience of becoming self-sufficient and realizing the full value of their life, that's what we want. And we know what will also be true is that a lot of them are just going to go to Denver. And that's okay, right? I mean, this is where we've done this a couple of times where with policies like the motor vehicle theft, where we said in Aurora, if you steal, there's going to be certainty of jail time as a penalty. That's not good for Denver, because ultimately that's just going to shift the problem to them. Now, this is how laboratories of democracy are supposed to work, is that if that continues to happen, our hope is that other cities, maybe even Denver, will start to adopt this work first policy. Because if we don't have the safe havens for this to continue to go on, then they won't have places to go. And so we start to limit their options where they can't be on the street because they'll either be thrown in jail or forced into a navigation center, or they're going to have to start participating.
Now, Dustin Zvonek, at-large Aurora City Council member, currently serving as mayor pro tem. Coolest business card ever. On with Jeff and Bill. And I like the idea of setting up the new rules and the new situation in Aurora, especially when you lean on the idea of car theft. Because here's been the argument that when Denver rolls out the welcome mat for the illegals and for the homeless, they end up exporting their problems to the suburbs. And what I'm hearing from you is this is the suburbs trying to export a solution then to Denver, saying we are not going to deal with the spillover that happens because of your policies. We're going to implement these policies, and either we're going to spill some of the stuff in the cup back onto you, or we're going to show you and everybody around us are going to start doing these things to constrain your ability to impact our suburbs. And I think this is a wonderful idea, and it's going to be a great black and white example of two different policies. And so far, the migrant policy handled in Aurora is doing a better job than what's been done in Denver. So yet again, I appreciate you, Councilman Zvonek and Mayor Pro Tem, that once again, Aurora can lead the way inside of Colorado on exactly how to deal with these problems. Thank you for addressing it head on.
Yeah, no, that's right. And look, you just pointed out another issue, and this is what happens with Denver, the spillover challenge, the migrant issue, where our city has said, and it also shows the limitations of, municipal government, is that we have said we're not a sanctuary city. We've passed resolutions saying we are not going to do anything to aid the migrant crisis, and yet we're dealing with the challenge, right? I mean, it's been in the news. I know that you guys have spent some time at the apartment complexes. We have dealt with the challenges that are created by bad state law and bad city law in the city of Denver. And so what it's forced us to do, and I think it's a good thing for us to do this, regardless of the other two, is that it's forced us to look at ways to use municipal law to combat that type of bad policy and to create an example of what good governance can look like. And in hopes, again, that people will say, we want to look more like that than what we have here.
Talking with Dustin Zvonek, at-large Aurora City Council member. Final question. Everybody I talk to, Dustin, says, what is going on in Aurora? We had our perspective. From your perspective as an at-large Aurora City Council member with regards to Venezuelan gangs, can you help set the record straight? What is happening in Aurora?
Yeah, look, there is just no question that there is a presence of Venezuelan gangs, specifically TDA, in Aurora in these complexes, right? Like, that is true. It is also true that they have been limited to. There are the 3 complexes that are out there, and there's probably a couple other where it just hasn't bubbled up enough, but they are limited to those areas. And I think part of this is where I actually hope that there's an independent investigation into this. I believe that, again, Aurora has said we're not going to aid the migrant crisis. However, there were nonprofits that operate in Denver and Aurora that were getting funding from Denver, from the state, and from the federal government. And as these migrants were being shipped to Denver, they were then putting them into hotels, into apartments in Aurora, giving them vouchers for 3 months, for 6 months. And the landlords were accepting them, allowing them to because they were getting money. And then when the funding ran out, they were still there and they refused to pay. And it wasn't just the migrants who were, who came across the border and were not a part of the gang that were there. They were also the gang members. And wherever there's, the gang activity, they tend to infiltrate and try to assert their will. And that's what's happened, where they've pushed the landlords out, where they've pushed, any sort of a semblance of law and order out of those areas. So that it was a significant problem. I've had friends all over the country asking me if I'm safe, and the answer is yes, I'm safe. It is isolated, but I want to be very clear that if you are in those complexes or in the area, it was a dangerous situation. And since then, the tension on the complexes has allowed, or has pushed both APD and federal law enforcement to engage, to apprehend a number of the members of TDA, and to try to get some control under these complexes.
Dustin Zvonek, that is very close to what we found in our time down there with the folks actually interviewing the people that live in these complexes. Really appreciate your leadership in the city of Aurora. You're making it a better community. I know you have a lot to battle with what comes from Denver, but thank you for taking time to be on the Jeff and Bill Show today.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Dustin Zvonek, at-large Aurora City Council member. Coming up in the 9 o'clock hour, Larry Elder joins us. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Great conversation with Dustin Zavon, confirming pretty much what we found, Bill.
Yeah, exactly.
There's absolutely Venezuela gang issues.
Yes.
Thank you, City of Denver. I mean, he was very clear about that.
Oh, yeah. And I had seen some stuff over the weekend where even running in the liberal social media stuff where they're still like, no gangs. I'm like, what? I mean, these were some people that have decent followings nationally.
Yeah,
I'm like,
right.
You haven't done the work. I was shocked on some of, okay, not too shocked because I see some BS coming out of them all the time. But I was like, okay, I'm surprised you haven't done the work on this.
Well, and the idea, what they clomb onto is this idea that they haven't been taken over.
Yes.
There's no guards posted at the top corners of the roofs.
Exactly. And they're not going around taking, official, rent and stuff. Oh, well.
So Larry Elder's up next to give us a preview of the Donald Trump-Kamala Harris debate coming up tonight. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. We're talking to the sage from South Central, the great Eldersky. He's next.
It is 9 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. We have an absolutely fantastic hour for you because today's the big day. 710 KNUS is proud to present coverage of the ABC News presidential debate simulcast. Join Larry Elder at 5 p.m. for a pre-debate special, along with Dennis Prager, Sebastian Gorka, and many others. Then stay with us for live coverage of the debate on Tuesday night, starting at 7 p.m. tonight. So you got 5 p.m., the pre-debate special, then 7 p.m., the actual live debate will be carried here. For election coverage you can trust, stay with 710 KNUS. Man, Billy, I'm so proud to be able to have on this show the sage of South Central. He's come multiple times to the Western Conservative Summit that I hosted over the years. This guy is a great thought leader in our nation, real gift to our country.
Yep.
Larry Elder.
And so happy to have him back in the Salem family after
That's
a
right.
respite. He decided to go play politics for a bit, and now he's back doing what we love. Welcome. So happy to have you, sir.
I gave it the office. I ran for governor. I ran for president. I am done. I'm absolutely done. Don't ask.
I don't blame you either. That's a totally different ball game. But Larry Elder, your show is regular on our station here on 710 KNUS in the afternoons, and then tonight you guys are hosting this big pre-debate special. I want to ask you about the debate. This is a big one because of the last presidential debate. Something happened that I never thought could happen. A debate went so bad that a presidential candidate had to withdraw. What are you expected to see tonight?
This is the biggest debate of my lifetime. I don't recall ever seeing one where the stakes are this high. Kamala Harris has got to define herself. She has to somehow, some way, distance herself from the disaster of the last 4 years. She has to somehow explain away that she's not responsible for the 40-year high in inflation, the gas prices that are high, the 10, 12 million illegal aliens who are in the country, even though she says that she's been the last person in the room for every major decision Biden has made. So how she does that, I have no idea. Regarding Trump, all he has to do is stick to the knitting. Are you better off now than you were 3.5 years ago? What about prices? The average family of four is spending around $1,200 a month for the same goods and services as that family bought 3.5 years ago. What about gas prices? 50% higher than 3.5 years ago. What about the illegal aliens? Every state is now a border state. If he sticks to that, he wins. If he gets off on a tangent, it could be a long night.
Oh, and it's a great morning because we have Larry Elder live on the Jeff and Bill show here on 710 KNUS. And I want to talk two things with you, Larry. First is the difficulty Kamala's going to have with creating so much separation because it's going to be, we just last hour talked about the ACLU thing that's just come out and her answers in 2019, where she's trying to almost like compete with Bernie Sanders. Those answers are so liberal. She does have a track record of being the vice president. If you were going to, I'm going to put you like the cut man in her corner. If you were going to give her advice, what do you possibly tell Kamala in order to create that separation, not only of her recent past, but her direct past being inside the White House? How do you advise her?
I think her strongest argument is to say, I'm not the president, I'm the vice president. That's her strongest argument. The problem, again, is what I said earlier, when she says that she's the last person in the room, and when asked specific questions, for example, about Afghanistan, were you okay with the abrupt pullout? She said, absolutely. And she said many, many times, Bidenomics is working. So how you do that, I don't know. But that's what I would argue. I'm not the president. I am the vice president. The vice president is the co-pilot. His job is to essentially be there in the unlikely event that something happens to the president. I'm not the one making policy. Joe Biden is. That's what I would say.
Oh, that's a good one. Now let's check in and let's move at Trump, because Trump admittedly struggles at times staying on policy. But like you outlined, if he can hit those high points, and they're not deep, they're not difficult, but if he can hit the high points on the economy, and especially based on prices, because I think that is prices and immigration are a great argument for him. Okay, you're in the corner. How do you advise Trump, the classic counterpuncher, to not offer that hard personal counterpunch, but instead punch with policy?
This is a rare moment in history where you have two side-by-side administrations to compare. You have the Biden-Harris administration, you have my administration. Which one were you better off? Were you better off under mine, where salaries were rising much faster than inflation? I left inflation at 1.4%. It got to 9% under Biden-Harris. I left gas prices, as I said before, 50% lower than what they are right now. You're now paying way more at the pump. Which administration would you prefer? You have a side-by-side comparison, apples to apples comparison. Rarely do you have that.
That's very true. Now, Larry Elder, I got to ask you about actually appealing to low information voters, okay? Because what you laid out was brilliant. And I think anybody that does this paper, write down math, one administration versus the other, they're going to go, yeah, this is clear. But listen to this audio, okay? This was an actual, I think, paid Kamala Harris ad about why people are supporting her. Listen to this.
What's the number one reason you're voting for Kamala Harris?
I think a disavowal of fascism is a pretty good reason to vote for her. She represents the future in all ways.
She represents the good in the world that should be showcased in the United States.
I think the most important is getting our country back on track. The first woman and the most amazing human to do it. And we're lucky to be able to vote for her.
Saving democracy and humanity.
The most amazing human. She's the good in the world. I sat there and watched this. This just came up on my Instagram while I was scrolling through, and I go, how do I compete with that? Right? So what's Trump's message to somebody that thinks Kamala Harris is the good in the world and the most amazing human being?
Well, again, after setting forth economically, you were better off under my administration, then talk about some of the crazy bat bleep stuff that Kamala Harris has said over the last several years. For example, she supports a commission reparations. Are you kidding me? Reparations is the extraction of money from people who were never slave owners to be given to people who were never slaves. She said that illegal aliens should get taxpayer-provided health care insurance. She wants price control, something that you see in a communist nation. She said we ought to reimagine the police. We ought to start ICE from ground up. She promised Al Sharpton that if she got a bill for reparations on her desk, she would sign it. She said that she wants to eliminate private health care insurance. Explain some of these crazy things. She posted that fund to bail out people that were committed of violent offenses during the summer of George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. Some of these people that got bailed out went on to commit further crimes. She said anybody in the country illegally ought not be deemed a criminal. And she wants a pathway to citizenship, not for just the 20-some million people in the country illegally before she let in 12 more million. Add that up, we're talking about 30, 40, 50 million people she wants to have a pathway to citizenship and therefore become voters because they're going to vote Democrat. The Democrat Party has lost the white vote since 1964. They're going to win by importing new voters who are going to be grateful to them for all the goodies that they've been given. Explain all this stuff to the low information voter. And that voter will go, really? She wants all of that stuff? Family, government paid for family medical leave, government paid for child health care. Who's going to pay for all this? A guaranteed minimum national income. Who's going to pay for all of this? These are the kinds of things she said in the past she wants.
We're talking with Larry Elder. You know him from this station. He's on in the afternoons. He's going to be hosting a special pre-debate discussion at 5 p.m. along with Dennis Prager, Sebastian Gorka, and many others. I think Tony Perkins is joining you all. This is a great lineup. That's a ton of fun. Right. Then you can stay with 710 KNUS and listen to the entire debate starting at 7 p.m. Now, Larry, during the DNC, I was actually outside the DNC. I was with the Palestinian protesters for 4 days. That was its own experience in itself. But we watched the DNC, and I said they Oprah-fied Kamala, so they made her your gal pal, right? My goodness, she's going to be right there with you. And then they Obama-fied her. They talked about this historic opportunity, right? And if I go back to 2008, I remember conservatives were going, well, Barack Obama was the most liberal senator at that time, too. He had a crazy pastor that was out there saying, don't God bless America, God darn America, did all that stuff. We tried that, but when they Oprah-fied and then they Obama-fied, they made you feel good about this candidate, and then they made it a historic candidacy. This could be the first Black woman. How do conservatives respond to that messaging? I know you laid out a good idea of her policies are bad, but how do you respond to this idea that there are people out there, especially suburban white liberals, that are just egging on for this opportunity to embrace this historic election?
Yeah, aided and abetted by the left-wing media. Media Research Center did a study of ABC, NBC, CBS, and of all their stories, 85% of the stories having to do with Harris Walz was positive. 93% of the stories having to do with Trump, Vance were negative. And then ABC News, because ABC News is holding the debate Their anchor is David Muir. He's one of the co-moderators. Of 25 stories since Harris has become the nominee, 0 have been negative. 0.
Wow.
100% positive.
Wow.
Of the stories for Donald Trump, 93% of them have been negative. So this is what we're up against. We're up against ABC, NBC, CBS, NPR, New York Times, LA Times. They all hate Donald Trump's guts. What Trump needs to focus on is the 5% or so of the people who are watching the debate who have no blooming idea what Kamala Harris's policies are. And for the first time, he'll be able to talk directly to them without the filter of the left-wing media. Talk to them. Talk to them again about how much better off you were when I was president. Talk to them about the crime coming into the country because of the 10 million, 12 million illegal aliens that they've let in when she was supposedly in charge of the border. Talk to them about the left-wing crazy stuff that Kamala Harris has said over the years, including it's not about equality, it's about equity. We all have to end up in the same place. What does that even mean? I have 2 brothers. Same house, same family, same mom, same dad, same school, same house, same neighborhood. We all ended up in different places, but everybody in the country is supposed to end up in a different place. Otherwise, we have a systemically racist country. It is madness, and Donald Trump needs to explain that to these low-information voters.
Man, Larry Elder, you were exactly right. We were getting text messages in here to my personal account from my friends going, love me some Larry Elder. You are fire.
That's great.
So, Larry, I've been trying this theory because I want to disrupt the Oprah-fying of Kamala, of the gal pal, okay? And I've been testing this out with women I've been meeting, and I think I've found something that absolutely disrupts that, primarily that white, liberal, suburban woman that sees Kamala as the gal pal. And it's shocking how when I present this theory to them, it disrupts the entire thing, and they almost stand there stunned, and they don't know if they're offended by what I just said or if they're actually believing that Kamala Harris could be this bad. I point out that according to statistics and track record, Kamala Harris is that female boss that every woman hates to work for. She's got a 90% turnover rate in 4 years. And women know this. Men don't really know this. You have to actually tap into the female psyche here. That women know what it's like to work for a terrible woman boss that's insecure, that is competitive, that pushes down other women. Do you see other women that have worked for Kamala Harris rising up and being empowered by her? I think that statistic of her having a 90% turnover rate in her office in 4 years is indicative that she is very insecure and that she's actually really terrible to other women. And I think if you bring that up, it disrupts the entire Oprah gal pal facade that the Democrats are trying to build. What do you think?
I think that is a superb point that nobody's talking about. You're absolutely right. She's had a massive amount of turnover, all sorts of squabbling. This is when her approval rating was below that of Joe Biden. But nobody's talked about it since then because, and I said this for a long time, as soon as Harris becomes the nominee, the media is going to turn her into a combination of Joan of Arc and Rosa Parks. That's exactly what they've done. Regarding Oprah, let me just say this real quickly. She comes out, Oprah, at the DNC and says, you really cannot realize the American dream unless you have, quote, access to reproductive rights, i.e. access to abortion. This is the same woman who in 2018 gave an interview and praised her unwed mother for not aborting her, and that the doctor advised the mother to get an abortion, and she didn't. And mother, thank you so much for not doing it. Thank you so much for not aborting. Thank you so much for allowing me to live. And now she says you have to have access to abortion to achieve the American dream. Talk about hypocrisy.
Larry Elder, the sage of South Central. He's going to continue with us. Let's check in on the news and commentary with Blake Olson. We'll be right back.
Tough to top that. Wow, I was just enjoying Larry. That is awesome. 71 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 87 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
It'll become the party of war, censorship, corruption, big pharma, big tech, big ag, and big money.
RFK Jr. will former President Trump emphasize that Kamala Harris and the Democrats are everything that most hardworking Americans don't want. The debate begins at 7 o'clock Mountain Time, and even though she's flip-flopped on everything and could wear a MAGA hat at this point, voters need to be reminded she and Crooked Joe did all of this.
We also have a broken immigration system.
We're going to have 2 million people cross this border for the first time ever. You're confident this border's secure?
We have a secure border in that is a priority for any nation, including ours and our administration. But there are still a lot of problems that we are trying to fix.
What a joke. She's warning all Americans on the Ricky Smiley show. Former President Trump will lie tonight.
He plays from this really old and tired playbook, right? Where there's no floor for him in terms of how low he will go. And we should be prepared for that. We should be prepared for the fact that he is not burdened by telling the truth.
She loves using that burden.
We should be prepared for the fact that he is probably going to speak a lot of untruth.
Oh, wow. Word salad once again. And she'll use this tonight as well. Millions won't know the facts about the bill.
During the Biden-Harris administration, there were record numbers of illegal border crossings. Why did the Biden-Harris administration wait 3.5 years to implement sweeping asylum restrictions?
A bill was crafted, which we supported, which I support. And Donald Trump got word of this bill that would have contributed to securing our border. And because he believes that it would not have helped him politically, he told his folks in Congress, don't put it forward. He killed the bill.
Yeah, because they're spending tons of money, billions of dollars going to Ukraine. Brian's one of our listeners, and he's a voter, and he knows the
Kamala doesn't have a record to run on. Donald Trump has a record to run on. And, you know, when Donald Trump was running in 2016, you had people saying he wasn't conservative enough because he was a centrist. And Democrats, he didn't run as a Democrat because they were so far left at that point after Obama that he couldn't even identify with them.
Hey, Denver police say catalytic converter thefts in the city have dropped by 95% compared to last year. The largest decrease in thefts was in Police District 1, which includes Denver's Auraria, Highland, and Lincoln Park neighborhoods. As of this week, a total of 109 catalytic converter thefts have been reported. Over 3,000 were reported last year alone.
Look, Simba, everything the light touches is our kingdom. Wow. A king's time as ruler rises and falls like the sun. One day, Simba, the sun will set on my time here and will rise.
The greatest voice ever, James Earl Jones, passed away at the age of 93
hey, Blake,
on Monday.
Blake, I know I'm interrupting right now. Apologies here. You know, we were talking last hour about our favorite James Earl Jones movies and things. Got a fan of the show that texted in that reminded me of a role I had totally forgotten about. Him in Conan the Barbarian.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and they were like, that does not get enough attention based on what he was able to do in that role. I'm like, that's a good point. That's
Man,
I've forgotten about that too, Mom.
Oh, that's
yeah,
great.
It was a really good one. Okay,
no,
sorry.
thanks to him or her for
I know. Can't
texting
believe you forgot
in.
that, my friend. Yeah.
No, that was great. Thank you very much. Hey, and don't forget the great Larry Elder tonight before the debate on KNUS.
This is the biggest debate of my lifetime. I don't recall ever seeing one where the stakes are this high. Kamala Harris has got to define herself. She has to somehow, some way, distance herself from the disaster of the last 4 years.
Crusher. 68 in Arvada, 70 in Lone Tree, 72 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. It's Tuesday morning. Blake Olson, News Talk, 710 KNUS.
Continued warm, partly cloudy with temperatures 80s and 90s today, mid to upper 80s tomorrow, and near 90 on Thursday. By Friday and into the weekend, a touch cooler, comfortable. Friday through Sunday's highs will be 80s. Only a few isolated thunderstorms will be around today, and a better chance tomorrow than Thursday through Sunday, dry. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed payments, giving you a peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
News Talk 710 KNUS. You're listening to Jeff and Bill Live. We have got the man. We've got the sage of South Central. We have got the great Eldersky here with us. He is joining us before our debate special edition tonight. He's doing something special with Dennis Prager, Sebastian Gorka tonight at 5 o'clock right here on KNUS. And then you get the debate coverage live courtesy of ABC. Yeah, I know. They're playing nice with us. We like that. But, Jeff, just a second ago, we went to Blake, and there was a break there where he didn't quite jump on with the news. And he told me off the air, he goes, I was having so much fun listening to Larry. Because I forgot that I was supposed to do news.
We had you get enthralled. I mean,
Yes.
Larry's so good. You can
I
see
know.
why he is a nationally
Yes.
broadcasted talent.
Yes, exactly. He enveloped Blake, our newsman, into his words, into his pontification so much. Blake forgot he was at work. So we appreciate you. And welcome back, Larry. Thanks for sitting with us, man. We appreciate your time.
Behold the power of the black face of white supremacy.
You're the best.
So, Larry Elder, Donald Trump has got about a little less than 60 days to wrap this all up and become what I think is necessary to save this country. I don't think that we are going to survive a Kamala Harris leftist, progressive, Marxist, communist push in this country, especially as it relates to the amount of illegal immigrants that are coming in. I just think we're going to spiral down and down if she becomes the president of the United States. So Donald Trump needs to seal the deal in the next 60 days. What does he need to do?
Talk about how high the stakes are. And he needs to deal with this nonsense that, but for Donald Trump interfering, there was this wonderful border bill that was about ready to be passed. However you feel about the border bill, it had enough holes for you to drive Arnold Schwarzenegger's Hummer through. Trump secured the border without any input whatsoever from Congress. Biden on day one began undoing the Trump policies, and that is where we are. Biden doesn't need any input from Congress to reimpose the Trump policies that he repealed starting on day one. Also, this nonsense that Harris has used it in her campaign speech, that after Charlottesville, Donald Trump said there were good Nazis and bad Nazis on both sides. That is a lie that's been repeated ever since 2017. Even Jake Tapper, 2 or 3 years later, said, you know what? I went back and I looked at the film, and it turns out Donald Trump was saying there were good and bad people on both sides of the debate as to whether or not there should be a Confederate monument in the public square. He wasn't talking about white nationalists and white Aryan brothers. And then after he said this on CNN, 2 or 3 weeks later, Biden goes on CNN and repeats the lie, and nobody says a word. Biden has said that's why he started his campaign. I wasn't going to run until what happened in Charlottesville. And then the words that shocked the nation, the president said there were good and fine people on both sides. The whole thing is a big fat lie, all designed to characterize Donald Trump as, wait for it, a racist.
I think you're exactly right that if Donald Trump is ready for that quote and Kamala tries to use it and he goes, wait, if we went back and look at it, that's not even at all. He can expose her as playing politics and playing along with that mass media. I also want to talk a little bit. I like how you talked about the border bill. And I'm wondering, would it help? I'm thinking with Donald Trump, if Kamala brings up the idea, hey, Donald Trump stopped this border bill that was going to happen, he could pivot and say, it took you long enough to figure out the problem. It took you, 3.5 years to figure out the problem? America can't wait another 3.5 years for you to figure out that there's a problem, another solution. We don't have that kind of time. And he could go back to, hey, I started on day one. I addressed it. I brought immigration numbers down to here. I had policies that were effective here. I think he can do that if he pivots and changes and says, you're finally coming to the table, and I'm not going to give you credit for finally figuring out that this thing stinks. I'm hoping he does that. Now, the question I have for you, Larry, is I want to pivot to her poll numbers. I have seen them plateau recently. Do you feel that she has reached a ceiling in her poll numbers and now gravity will take over and slowly erode? And I think that's what she's playing for tonight. She's trying to not have those poll numbers fall any lower than they are right now.
I agree with you. I think she's peaked. That is why this debate is so important. If Donald Trump can hold his own in the debate, I think it's over. If Donald Trump somehow fumbles and fails, and keep in mind, no matter what he does, if Kamala Harris comes out and sounds like my cousin Vinny, it won't matter. They're still going to say, oh my God, she was poised. She was well prepared. She was smooth. She wasn't intimidated. She wasn't allowed herself to be bullied. That's what the media is going to say. The question again is, what do the swing staters feel who have never seen Kamala Harris before, haven't paid attention until tonight? That's what we got to focus on. But no matter what Donald Trump does, how well he performs, he's going to be accused of being a liar. It doesn't matter. What matters is what the handful of swing voters think about this debate, and keep the focus on that. And regarding this business about democracy being on the ballot, for the entirety of his term in office, Trump's term, Hillary referred to him as illegitimate, said the election was stolen. They've been saying this ever since they've lost elections in 2000 when Al Gore went to the Supreme Court and he lost. And then that following January, there were a dozen House members that tried to overturn the results in Florida. 4 years later, there were 30 House members, including the chair of the January 6th committee, Benny Thompson, joined with Barbara Boxer to overturn the results in Ohio, claiming that the Debo voting machines had been hacked. Then you go to 2016, they challenged 9 states versus the 6 states that Trump challenged in 2020. My long way of saying this, these guys have been challenging elections for 20 years. Nobody said a word. We all assumed they had a First Amendment right to complain, and that you could use legal means to try to overturn the election. Who cares? But now Donald Trump does it, and somehow he's a fascist and he's undermining the foundations of our democracy. It is a double standard.
Talking with Larry Elder, there's a very special broadcast of the debate happening tonight, 7 p.m. on 710 KNUS. At 5 p.m., Larry Elder, along with Dennis Prager, Sebastian Gorka, and many others, are going to provide a pre-debate special. So you're not going to want to miss it. Stick with 710 KNUS for the entirety of the day to get the best analysis on the upcoming debate today. All right, I got to ask you, Larry, though, Liz Cheney, Dick Cheney, embracing Kamala Harris, and George Bush not saying who he's going to vote for. What is happening to these Republicans that we all used to support?
That is less of a bombshell than RFK Jr., coming from one of the most celebrated Democratic families in American history, saying not only he's no longer a Democrat, he's going to support Donald Trump. That is a much bigger deal. And out here in California, hasn't made much news. There's a woman named Gloria Romero. She was the Senate Majority Leader, a Democrat. She's now renounced the Democratic Party, has become a Republican, and she's now supporting Donald Trump. She's Hispanic. That is a much, much bigger deal. Who cares? If somebody once said, I don't know where it was, maybe it was on Gutfeld's show, I didn't realize Dick Cheney was still alive.
Talking with Larry Elder. By the way, you can follow him on X at x.com/Larry Elder. You hear him every day on this station at 3 p.m. And he's got a great discussion coming tonight with Sebastian Gorka, Dennis Prager. Yeah, you're right. When I look, Larry, at WhatsApp, I'll be honest, though, I took a moment and I was like, okay. So Tulsi Gabbard is a great friend. I adore her. She spoke at the summit many years like you have. And but we have we have Tulsi Gabbard. We've got Robert F. Kennedy. They're all on our side now. And now the Bushes and Cheneys have all gone over to the Democrats. I'm sitting here going, what has happened? But I think it supports the idea that Donald Trump is in a battle against the uniparty, right? If Dick Cheney, who was a Republican for many years, is willing to go over and support Kamala Harris, she's as close as you can get to a Marxist communist elected as president of the United States, then maybe there really is a uniparty. I think they further enhanced Donald Trump's argument that that's who he's battling.
Right, and don't forget, we might even have Snoop Dogg. Look, here's the deal. I talked with that woman who defeated Liz Cheney in the primary, and I said to her, I understand you beat her by 38 points. She said 40. Largest margin of defeat of any incumbent running in a primary in the House in history. And that's Dick Cheney's daughter. So it's emotional. It's Trump derangement syndrome. By the way, one more crazy thing. Kamala Harris has said that she wants to ban the sale of new gas-powered cars by the year 2035. So if you're unhappy about the extremist climate change agenda of Joe Biden, Kamala Harris is even more of an extremist. By the way, did you guys see that undercover tape that Steve Crowder did with that DOJ officials trashing the Alvin Bragg prosecution, trashing the Fonnie Lewis prosecution, and trashing the Letitia James prosecution? Trashed them all. This is the top DOJ official, all saying that these people were rogue and their sole objective was to get Donald Trump, and there was no legal basis for it. That is a bombshell that nobody's paying attention to on the left.
That is exactly right.
Good point.
Guys, you can get all of this for 2 hours more tonight at 5 p.m. as Larry Elder, along with Dennis Prager, Sebastian Gorka, and many more friends join together to provide a pre-debate special of the ABC News presidential debate simulcast. And then stick with 710 KNUS because you can listen to the entire debate here. Larry Elder, the sage of South Central, thanks so much for taking time to be on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Thank you, sir.
It's been my pleasure.
Man.
Enjoy yourself
and
tonight.
And you get to listen to them.
Yes.
That great intellect.
Oh my
every
goodness.
single day on this station. That's why KNUS is the very best.
Yep. We are very lucky to have this part of the team. And to say that we're talk show hosts just like Larry Elder on the same station. That's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. I kind of like that.
I know.
I like that a lot.
That is the majors.
Yes, it is. It is.
Billy and I are working to someday get there, but you can see there's just a lot of talent that comes with that.
Double A. That's part of my guys. I swing way too early.
Look, with all the work I've had done to my teeth, believe me, finding a good dentist makes all the difference. I'd like to tell you about Dr. Mike at Rocky Mountain Dental Group. He helps people like you and me look and feel amazing by providing the best dental care available. See for yourself all the 5-star reviews at RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. Here's one. I've been going there for over 20 years. Dr. Mike and his entire staff are outstanding. I like the fact that the same person always cleans my teeth. If you need an awesome dentist, Dr. Mike is your guy. If your gums are receding, it's critical to address this issue promptly. Dr. Mike is a top-tier expert in the Chow pinhole surgical technique. This method requires no cutting, no sutures, and virtually no downtime. The procedure involves making a small hole in the tissue and gently repositioning of the gums. Schedule a free consultation with Dr. Mike to discover the benefits of this revolutionary procedure. Call 303-233-1335. That's 303-233-1335 or visit RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. That's RockyMountainDentalGroup.com to book your free consultation today. Believe me, as someone who knows a lot of dentists, spent a lot of time in the dentist chair, you need a good one, and that's exactly who Dr. Mike is. All right, we'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking all things debate because tonight is the ABC News presidential debate simulcast. You can join Larry Elder at 5 p.m. for a pre-debate special with Dennis Prager, Sebastian Gorka, Tony Perkins, and many others. Then stay with us for a live coverage of the debate tonight, starting at 7 p.m. for election coverage you can trust. Make sure you stay with 710 KNUS because you go to those other shows, and unless Donald Trump performs amazingly way beyond, or Kamala Harris crashes and burns in ways we could never imagine, they'll still be singing Kamala Harris's praises because that's who they are. So stick with 710 KNUS for good, honest coverage that you can trust, starting at 5 p.m. tonight with Larry Elder in the pre-debate special. Great to hear from Larry. Man,
we just talked to him. That was so cool.
That was so fun.
That was so nice.
Let's go to the phone lines. Joe Littleton, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Joe.
It's great. He's just so insightful and so articulate. I called because, Jeff, I just think that's such a good point about a woman boss. I had 10 different bosses over my career. Mm-hmm. And the majority of them were men. I didn't have any issues or problems. A couple of women that weren't too bad. But that last one, oh my gosh, it was like, I think it just shows the character of the person. If they keep having turnover, I finally had to quit. I couldn't deal with it anymore. But
well, and it's by no means are we talking about every female boss.
No,
there's a lot of good ones that are out there. But what I have found, particularly, I've been noticing this on Instagram, is that women do talk about, and they seem to have this code that they can sense and communicate to each other about, and they all seem to know what they're talking about. Like, oh yeah, that one woman boss that was insecure, that seemed to sabotage my career, that felt intimidated by me, that was never supportive of me. And they go, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking. And it's like they all know something. And me as a dude, I'm like, well, that's interesting. I've never thought about that. But they seem to be coalescing around something. And if you're a Republican trying to interrupt that gal pal thing that the left is building Kamala Harris up to be, right? Like, she's your best friend. Well, okay, she's had 90% turnover in her office. And if you're going to go out there and just debate policy, that's one thing. But if you're trying to disrupt the gal pal image that the left is building, I think you do it by pointing out she might be that woman boss that a lot of people don't like working for.
Oh, I think she absolutely must be. The writing's on the wall when people start dropping out like flies from a company, or it's. I think it's even more than that. I think sometimes they can be downright cruel and almost kind of like the Wicked Witch of the West. And you just see it by people not wanting to come to work.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, Joe. And for me, and I appreciate the phone call, is I've had a series of, male and female bosses, and the worst bosses I've had have been men the entire time. I've had one female boss, but out of the top 3 bosses I've ever had, 2 of them were female, and they were really strong and wonderful. But again, case by case basis. Yeah,
yep,
but I appreciate the call,
right.
Joe.
Let's go to Megan, Colorado. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Morning.
Hey, listen, fellas. All we have to say is voting for someone just because they have a vagina is the most sexist thing anyone can do. So just don't do that, because talking about women being wicked witches of the West does not help our cause. Guys, I've never had a male boss who didn't have their inside talk and the way that they look at each other and they automatically know what each other's thinking. Every boss I've ever had has done that. So women have had to fight that for quite a long time. So I've only had great women bosses, and principals that are women I have seen flourish. They are absolutely phenomenal. So let's just say what's really true. If you're voting for Harris because she's a woman, you're the most sexist person on the planet, and you have to deal with that.
That's interesting.
Period.
I hadn't thought about that. See, I think that Jeff's critique is fair, but again, I'm not sure how it would be received. And I understand your point about the idea that if you're pointing out, well, she's just one of those angry women, that it does a disservice rather than, hey, don't vote for her simply because based on her genetic makeup, she has ovaries. That, if you're making that choice based on the female nature of it, okay, I can see that. I can see where you're coming from.
So Megan, answer my question on this then. How do you interrupt the left's creation of Kamala Harris as gal pal without using an appeal to policy?
I just post on my Facebook every other day and to my friends directly because I'm an independent. I have 2 Republican friends. The rest of my friends are the film industry and creatives. Almost all of them are Democrats. And so I just keep posting, she is a leftist, not a liberal. And then I post, don't vote for her just because she has a vagina. That is the most inane concept I can even think of. And I was married to 2 narcissists and have a very vivid imagination. And I can't imagine. I honestly cannot imagine a worse concept than that.
But Megan, there's a lot of people out there that believe that where you come from gives you perspective, right? So they want, I was reading just today that, one of the actors from Friends, that the TV show Friends wasn't diverse enough. That your skin color, your perspective, where you come from shapes your perspective on this world. And there's people out there that think America would be better with a woman perspective at the top.
Wow. Well, what's funny is, though, she never had woman power that I've seen. Like, if she can show me that she really loves women and has women power, but I don't see that. I see her ripping women to shreds every chance she gets. If anyone disagrees with her policy, they rip them to shreds. And that is not girl power in my book. Girl power is like something like what I do. I post on my Facebook and I tell everybody I love my friends more than I dislike their politics. Okay, period. Now,
Megan, that's a great call. We're just running out of time here. Thank you so much.
And what I want you to do, Megan, is give us a call back here maybe in the next couple of weeks or so, because I want to take the temperature of both your Republican and especially your liberal friends.
Yes.
You being an independent. I would love to see, because I want to see if we can get off the vibe train with Kamala, or are they just going to stick with the vibe? So please do us a favor and call us back.
I will do.
Thank you, Megan. All right. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
This was kind of the song of the summer.
Yeah, schmoozy. Yeah. Such a good song.
A few years ago, we threw a kegger for the Trump Clinton debate. We all had Steins and all that fun
that's
stuff.
fantastic.
Now people actually want to listen to what I have to say, so we need
that's
to
unfortunate.
keep it sober.
Just don't tell anybody. I'm going to be in a bar during the debate tonight, but that's doing trivia. Yeah, we're doing Taylor Swift trivia, and so they asked me very nicely. So don't cancel on this one because we need you to do it. So I'm like, okay, fine.
T Swift.
Yeah, I got to do it, and
So
I'm a T Swift
we've
fan,
got
so,
we just got the spectrum here,
Yes,
Billy.
we do.
You got the politicos like me that really want to go see the fight, the
I know.
debate, and the future of our country. And then you have those that are like, I'm tuning out. I'm going to a T Swift trivia night.
Yep, I got to figure out when
Gonna
to
have
watch
some
the
fun.
debate. I can't figure out if I'm going to do it late tonight or get up really early tomorrow. We'll see.
Well,
I'll let you know in the
tomorrow we'll
morning.
provide all the analysis you need. So stick with 710 KNUS all day today. The special debate coverage beginning at 5 p.m. with Larry Elder, Sebastian Gorka, Dennis Prager, and then the debate right afterwards. All of that here. You've been listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.